Multiplayer games may be suffering the live service plague, but single-player classics are undergoing the Remake Renaissance. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 276 of the It's Obvious podcast. My name's Garrett Drake, and I'm joined online by Jacob Alka.
Garrett, what's going on, neighbor?
Hey, neighbor. Howdy, neighbor. Jacob, how's it feel to be officially moved into your new place?
Feels good. Feels good, man. I've been enjoying it down here. I actually recently just finished moving in. I've been here for a couple weeks, but had a lot of stuff to unpack. So I couldn't really finish unpacking my closet because I didn't have nearly enough hangers to hang things up. So for the longest time, I just had boxes sitting in my closet. But now pretty much everything's done except like one or two boxes, small ones. And I'm not even sure I'm going to unpack them.
Oh, what's in the unpacked boxes? Like secret treasures?
It's like old games and stuff.
Okay.
And I don't know if I might just store them away in my closet because I don't really have anywhere to put them besides like under the TV out in the living room. But I kind of like having it a little cleaner out there, a little less cluttered because I have like a ton of just games that are just, they're mostly PS4 games, but there's some Switch games and stuff. So.
Yeah, I saw Preston over the weekend, and
oh, really?
His room is packed to the brim with gaming memorabilia, including a lot of games. And he told me he's officially run out of space in that house for games. But I think he's moving in the near future as well. So maybe he'll expand.
Moving to Atlanta?
Not to Atlanta. I think possibly Decatur. Maybe some other area he and his girlfriend are looking at. But Preston's doing well. Not to get us off track, I want to hear more about your experience in Atlanta now. But Preston is doing well. Just an update on Preston for those of you who have ever wondered over the last dozen episodes or so where he's been. He is just unbelievably busy. I mean, we're all, like we've said a million times over the years, we're all busy, but Preston does travel just incessantly. And it's almost impossible for him to hop on the podcast almost always. It's just our schedule's constantly conflicting. He's not disinterested. He's not done. He'll be here when he can be here, but he's doing super well, still plays a ton of games, and particularly Gotham Knights recently, and he's actually enjoying it. He says it's a great podcast game. I will say, because I've seen a lot on that game. I've seen every review you can imagine. I've seen a lot of people live stream it. I watched him play it in person, and I still have no desire to play it. So that game definitely isn't for me, but that's a whole different subject.
That's a lot coming from
Jacob.
You.
Yeah, your room looks good in there. It looks like you've got, I know you mentioned a couple of boxes you're not going to unpack, but it looks like you're feeling pretty cozy in there.
Yeah, I mean, I still got to hang some posters up on the wall, but yeah, from the limited view that you have there, it's coming together.
It is really exciting. I think Jacob and I have already had one romantic evening together. I will occasionally just give myself a little treat in the middle of the week and just go get a milkshake late at night from Cookout down the street.
Mm-hmm.
So my normal trip with my dog, I'm like, man, Jacob is literally on the road I have to take to get there. I texted Jacob, I'm like, hey, man, you home? He was like, yeah. I was like, you want to go get a milkshake? He's like, sure.
Yeah.
Pick him up. So I pick up Jacob, and we went on a little romantic date to Cookout and got some milkshakes and dropped him right back off.
Delicious.
And I stand by what I said, man. I've been walking Den on the street that would lead toward your place recently because the cemetery I normally walked in and has had a lot of like Halloween events going on, so they closed it to the public. You actually have to pay to go in right now. So because of that, I've been walking the street that's closer to you. And I stand by what I said, man. I could very easily just walk to your place any day. No problem.
Speaking of that, Elliot was driving last week at some point, and he said he saw you walking your dog.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised he didn't try to wave or like honk at me or something. Maybe he did. I had headphones in. I don't know. But we should, maybe this weekend, we could walk and meet each other at the coffee shop I mentioned because it's in between our apartments. That sounds romantic to me as well. I mean, we're neighbors now, dude. We got to make the most of it.
Of course. Yeah, we need to definitely do more stuff.
Yeah, speaking of which, I mean, obviously we're going to hang outside of the content we do here with It's Obvious Gaming, but an update on It's Obvious Gaming. I know I mentioned Preston's very busy, but you may have noticed, those of you who are still subscribed to us on YouTube, that we've been uploading a bit more frequently, and that's something I want to maintain over the coming weeks and months. We'll upload at least twice a week, some form or fashion, whether it's in like a face cam type video or it's an excerpt from the podcast we're going to upload. Like there will be a couple of clips that come out of this episode, I'm sure. So you can look forward to that if you've ever enjoyed our YouTube content. It's a little more, I'm trying to think of the right word. I don't know if professional is the right way because we always strive to have some level of professionalism with the quality. with the quality of our content. It's a little more focused, a little more like reaction or impressions of gameplay that we've experienced. Like, for example, Jacob and I, now that we're neighbors, can very easily hop on camera in the future with God of War coming out. We may not do a full review for a while, so we're obviously going to take our time and like savor that game, but we'll play like the first 5 or 6 hours and hop on camera and do like a reaction video and talk about it. So you can count on stuff like that. We probably won't do many Let's Play type videos. Maybe occasionally if there's something really funny that we want to do together, we will. But more focused videos going forward for the time being. But I've enjoyed making those. There's a handful on the YouTube channel now. If you haven't been there in a while, there's one I did on why I don't think BioShock needs a remake. I did a Call of Duty campaign review, my thoughts on Halo Infinite, how it can improve in 2023. So videos like that is the kind of stuff that you can expect for the time being, and I've enjoyed doing that. So that is the current state of It's Obvious Gaming. But Jacob, it's good to be back on the podcast.
Yes, it's been a little while.
Normally, I'd say I miss you, but I've been seeing you a fair amount recently, and I expect to see you a lot more. So.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see each other in a few days. I'm sure.
Yeah, man, I'm so stoked about it. And I never thought that, I shouldn't say never. I knew the day would come that we'd eventually get to hang out more. But it was a surprise to me when you told me you were moving so close to me. Mm-hmm. It'd be one thing if you were across the city, but you're down the street. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's really great how it worked out like that.
But before we jump in all the gaming stuff, Jacob, catch me up a bit more on your life with the move, the transition, and you're slowly settling into your new situation. What's your perspective? How you feeling about all of it?
So it's been a little stressful, not going to lie. The most stressful part being just the move itself and unpacking everything, packing things to move and then unpacking it's a nightmare. I hate the whole process, if I'm being honest. But once I got that all squared away after the last week, I would say I'm a little more at ease. This place is starting to feel a little more like home, which is good. Starting to learn like where I put all the pots and the pans and, where the vacuum cleaner is. So everything's coming together. I'm starting to feel like, I actually like want to be here and want to, it doesn't feel weird to come home to the city every night anymore, which it kind of did the first week. But speaking of coming home, the traffic for my job has been terrible. I sort of get done around anywhere from 3 to 6 in the afternoon. And usually that time is not the best to be traveling back into the city with
it's
traffic.
Catastrophic that time, getting in and out of the city.
So I'm usually sitting in traffic in the afternoons anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. So it could be much worse, but it's certainly not ideal. So I'm trying to figure out maybe going to the gym on certain days at certain times to sort of prevent myself from sitting in more traffic, or perhaps like on some days I can start work later. So maybe going in later than I normally would to finish later and go to the gym after that to sort of alleviate the time that I would be sitting in traffic. I'm just sort of like fiddling with things like that right now to make the most of my time. Because some nights, because I have to sit in this traffic, I'm only getting like maybe 2-3 hours of, time to myself a night. And it's back in the hay and getting up the next day and doing it again. So that's sort of been the biggest challenge. But I've enjoyed pretty much everything else about the move as far as I'm concerned. Went to the grocery store the first time. That was great. I went to the Kroger off Ponce. I took your advice, Garrett.
The one off Ponce?
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Yeah. That one makes sense too. I forgot about that. That was a nice one too.
Yeah.
It was formerly known as Murder Kroger.
Yes, it was. Yeah. It was no murders this time, which is good.
Yeah, that's great.
What else have I done? I went to a little sandwich shop called Victory. It's right off the Beltline. Very good. Also got a Jack and Coke slushie. That was kind of good. Something I hadn't really tried before. I took a walk on the Beltline another time, but I haven't really done a whole lot in the city yet. So I need to keep getting out, but I've just been so swamped with work throughout the week. And then the weekend I was back with my folks to hang out with them. And then, but I've been playing a lot of stuff since we last recorded. Been watching a few things, just doing my thing.
Well, I'm thrilled for you, Jacob. I'm thrilled for myself as well because I get to see you more, like I said. So It is it's a good time to be alive, Jacob. It's a good season we're in here.
It is. It is
Look forward
indeed.
to hanging again. You're probably wondering, why aren't you guys in the same space if you live right down the street from each other? Jacob,
Garrett told me he didn't want to tonight.
right, yeah, I had no desire to see Jacob and I just wasn't in the mood, but just due to work circumstances didn't work out tonight. But we will be in the same room recording together soon enough.
Not that has any effect on what's like the podcast at all. Like it's going to be the same thing.
Well, we'll see. We haven't recorded in person in a long time. Yeah. So I've heard that people that have bounced between online and in person frequently can always tell the difference, but it's been so long for us. I don't even remember what it's like anymore.
It's been so
at least
long.
I can touch you again. I can lay my hands on you.
I know that's what you really want.
It's a major plus for me. Honestly, that's all that matters to me. So I'm stoked, man. We're also recording this episode on Halloween night.
Yes, we are. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
I actually picked up some Trolley sour gummy worms because I'm too old to go trick-or-treating. But I had to have some candy.
Man. I don't have any candy here. I should have gotten some earlier. Too late for me.
Yeah, you ruined Halloween.
Dude. I've gotten a decent Halloween fix. I watched a lot of horror movies, some that I love and others I hadn't seen before this Halloween season. Went to Netherworld Haunted House, of course. It was a great time as always. So I've had a decent Halloween. I, over the last couple of years, haven't had any friends in town or even friends to hang out with where the timings worked out to do any like Halloween parties or Halloween festivities in a while. So I haven't had that in a long time, which I dearly miss because I love this time of year. I'm also not one of those guys that jumps into Christmas the day after Halloween. I like to begin Christmas on Thanksgiving Day because I'm also someone, don't get me wrong, I love seasons throughout the year and we have seasons for particular reasons. I'm also thinking biblically right now, but even just in the West, we have seasons designed a certain way. And it always, I get why people get excited about Christmas and want to celebrate it for 2 whole months, but I like the transition from easing out of the spooky season into the beautiful, peaceful, quiet fall where there's crisp days and colorful leaves and just enjoying that like 2 or 3 week period of just pure fall where there's like not anything significant going on necessarily. And then Thanksgiving hits. Obviously, that's a big deal. And then you're right into Christmas from there. That's where I like to begin celebrating Christmas. I don't like to like just immediately jump into the next thing. I like to take my time to get there so I can actually like appreciate and savor it.
I'm with you.
I know some people, man, that love Christmas so much the day after Halloween, it's Christmas for them.
Yeah, I saw someone in my parents' neighborhood that already had Christmas lights up. I'm not even joking.
Wild, dude.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we will see Christmas ads. Mm-hmm. But I love the Halloween season, dude. Ever since I was a kid, I've always just been crazy about it. So this is my favorite time of year. I love Christmas as well. Don't get me wrong, but I really, really love the Halloween season.
Yeah, I've never really been a big Halloween guy. I mean, I enjoyed it when I was little, dressing up in different costumes and getting loads of pillowcases of candy. Like there was one year where I had 3 pillowcases of candy. Can you believe that? Like, I don't even know how I ended up with 3.
That's impressive.
I had 3 bags in my bedroom that I ate, the following 3 or 4 months. But yeah, I used to love it when I was a kid, but it never really transitioned when I became an adult. But I've always loved Christmas. I love everything about Christmas.
The only bummer for Christmas this year for me is that the Hogwarts Legacy game isn't releasing until after Christmas.
Yeah,
I mean, that's actually a huge shame, I think. It's not going to hurt the game, I don't think, but that would have been the ultimate Christmas season game to play. And I know originally it was supposed to come out this year, but obviously it's been delayed a dozen times. So that's a kind of an L for them, I think. Again, it's going to do fine, I think. It's going to do fine, but should have come out around this time. Around Thanksgiving, Christmas would have been perfect, dude.
Guess we'll just have to
I'm
watch.
still going to watch all the Harry Potter movies.
That's
when I like to start watching. Yeah, the Harry Potter movies is around November, Thanksgiving times where I'll start and watch them through the end of the year.
Yeah.
Always love that.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I have great memories trick-or-treating as a kid. So miss that. But every time I see like a beautiful neighborhood that is just looks old, it's full of colorful trees, brings me back to my childhood. I miss those days.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe one day I'll be a dad and take my own children trick-or-treating. We'll see.
Maybe.
Lord willing.
Maybe.
Anyway, Jacob, we got a lot of news to cover and a lot of fun community questions. So I say we jump right into it. What have you been playing? And let's start with the smaller things, and we'll jump into Modern Warfare 2 and Overwatch and like do deep dives on that after.
Okay. Well, since we last recorded, I went on a beach trip with my folks. Went down to Santa Rosa Beach, which is it's kind of in between Panama City and Destin, Florida. So it's up on the upper Panhandle. But while I was there, and I went the week that the like hurricane hit Tampa. I think it was like the Tampa Bay area. So just dodged not being able to go. Thankfully, there was really like the Santa Rosa area wasn't really affected at all. So that was great. I think like the first day I was down there was a Thursday and it was a little windy. But other than that, it was like 80 degrees, clear skies. It felt great. It was like the perfect weather. Wasn't too hot. And we had a pool in the backyard, which is just perfect. So spent a lot of time outside, but obviously when I wasn't, I brought my Switch. And I kind of teased that I might jump back into Metroid Prime. And I'm happy to say that I didn't. I didn't touch that game at all, which is a shame because I need to. And I need to go back and play it because I never finished it. But I did revisit a game that I've already played and beat before. And that game is Fire Emblem Three Houses, Garrett. I picked it up again, started a brand new playthrough. I decided to go with the Blue Lion House, which is just one of the 3 houses that you can select. And I probably played about 30, 35 hours since I started playing it on that trip. And I've been having a great time with it. I mean, I've talked about the game to death a lot back when it came out. And I think it might have been 2018 or 2019. It was a long time ago. Yeah, I really do just love that game. I don't know if I'll actually finish this playthrough, but I've just really enjoyed playing it. It's a good time. I often take my Switch with me when I go to work. So anytime I have downtime or need to like sit around and wait for traffic to get better, I'll just whip out my Switch and just hang out for a little bit. I think I've only played 3 other things. 2 of them are on your list here. The one that's not would be WoW. Just logging in to do some weekly stuff. Nothing really significant worth talking about. Just know that I'm never stopping. Never have, never will. I'm always on the grind.
Respect.
Yep. Other than that, little game got released again, some would say. And that game's Overwatch 2. I've been playing Overwatch 2 a lot. And when I mean a lot, I mean every single day. Like I log on every day and play at least a few matches to get my dailies done. At this point, I've completed the battle pass. It's 80 levels.
Dang, already?
Yeah. Yeah, I finished it a few days ago.
When did it release again? It's been out for a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, I think it's been out for a month, maybe.
Okay, because I just jumped into it, obviously. So for me, I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I've only played like 8 matches, but wow, already completed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't hard. You really just need to get your daily challenges. Like if you do your days, you get like 2 or 3 levels every day. So that's the best way to do it. But there's like stuff you can do like throughout the week, and it's challenge based. It's kind of like Halo's, I guess, if Halo is still the same, which is a little annoying. But the good thing about Overwatch is that challenges really aren't hard. So it's just like, hey, win a match, get some XP, play 3 games of all role queue, which is like so there's a thing called role queue, so you can select tank, DPS, or healer. But if you do all, you'll be randomly put into one of those. So do 3 matches of that. Then there's like even one challenge where it's like, hey, say thanks, like emote thanks to a healer. So I'm like, okay, free XP, sure, I'll do that. But it's just simple stuff like that. So it's really not that annoying to do. But I did complete it. There's some cool stuff in the past. A lot of people keep bringing up that the game sort of feels unrewarding. As someone that played a lot of the first one, and then I've pretty much been playing the second one daily, I will say that it does feel pretty unrewarding, especially when you complete the battle pass. Because
okay, break this down for me, Jacob. This is what I need to understand. Sure. Because I played a lot of Overwatch 1 as well, but I was never ingrained enough in that community or even in that game to like fully grasp what the deal was, honestly, other than just the gameplay experience. Mm-hmm. So you finish a few matches in Overwatch 1 versus you finish a few Overwatch matches in Overwatch 2. What about it doesn't feel as rewarding? What's the difference?
So Overwatch 1, you would always be progressing your level. Like you would constantly just level up your account, and it would go all the way to level 100. Then you would like prestige once and get a star on your portrait, basically, or around your portrait. And you would infinitely prestige. I think it stopped eventually, but it was like, I think it was at least 20 to 30 levels of prestige. It's like you would just constantly keep leveling up all the time. And every time you leveled up, you got a free loot box. And if you get if you get enough of these loot boxes, you're going to eventually get every item in the game just by playing. So the game always had that loop of I'm not getting something every single match, but I'm at least getting a loot box.
You're working toward that next reward.
Yeah, like I'm getting a loot box at least every night. Like at least. Maybe 2 or 3. But in Overwatch 2, they completely got rid of the loot boxes because of all the controversy. There's a shop now. There was a shop before, but you can only buy loot boxes, I'm pretty sure. Or you could buy currency to buy skins. The only way to get new skins is A, you buy the battle pass and you get through that, or B, you open up the shop and spend money. And when you're spending money, you're probably spending about at least $20 to get a legendary skin. Some of them are like in bundles and they're like $25 to $30, like some of the seasonal skins. Like there's this witch skin for the new hero, the new support. Her name's Kiriko. I think you played her once, Gara, but she throws little kunais and she has like little ribbons she throws out to heal people. But she's like dressed up in a witch costume. And then the only way you can buy it is if it's like you have to purchase the bundle. And I think it's 26,000 or 2,600 credits, I think, which amounts out to about $25, I think. And like you can't just buy the skin, you have to buy the whole bundle, which comes with like a pose, a emote, the skin, and some sprays or something. So it's just like they're squeezing
me, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think our opening little intro is fitting. Is the live service plague is what I'm calling it now, is really affecting games, sometimes in a positive way, but mostly in a negative way. And it's kind of universal now among many modern multiplayer games. It's a shame to me because just right as you've described that, it's kind of like put the whole thing into perspective for me. Because I don't want to get you off track. I want you to keep talking about it because you know much more about this game than I do. But I've played very little of it, and I've had a blast so far just with the gameplay itself. Mm-hmm. And I was reminded of just like what pure, unadulterated fun can be. And don't get me wrong, like we've had our asses kicked multiple times in Overwatch 2, but I was never mad about it because we've won games as well. But just I forgot how much just fun Overwatch can be, and I've liked the changes they made. But 100%. That being said, it would have been way more interesting. And if it was back in like 2007, 2008, this probably would have been the case where you play the Halloween event, and the only way you can get those Halloween skins is if you get 5 stars in the campaign, little mission, like Halloween event, whatever it was. Because you and I played, we didn't do bad, but we got 3 out of 5 stars. Super fun. Loved that event. Yep. And it would have been cool if like, hey, you want these skins? Like reach 5 stars, like work with your friends to like hit 5 stars to get those skins. Like in a perfect world 10 years ago, that would have been the reality. But it's just a shame now. It's like, no, just like play the Halloween event. Like it's here if you want to play it, have fun. Yeah. But if you want the skin, like give us $30. Like that just sucks, dude.
I mean, to give the game credit, the Halloween event, like the new mission is very good. Like
it's great.
Like we were both talking about it last night. Like it's top quality. Like it's, if that's any tease of what their campaign missions are going to be like, it's like we have a lot to look forward to, I think. But yeah, the shop is out of control in this game. And what's even worse is if you didn't play Overwatch 1, you have to play the game to unlock all the characters. Like I think you only start with maybe 15, maybe, and then you have to slowly unlock them. And I think you get one maybe every level, every 2 levels. I mean, maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay if it's like that for new players, but I don't know. As someone that, you know, went into the first one with all of them unlocked, it would really feel bad to me if I could play who I wanted to right when I got the game. But going back to the store, it's just, I mean, I look at it frequently, I will admit that, but I've yet to purchase anything outside the Battle Pass. It just hasn't sat well with me. It just feels bad.
Yeah, because I've looked at the shop in Halo a lot. It's the exact same scenario in Halo Infinite, and I've never once spent a penny in that store. Mm-hmm. Part of it's principle as well, because I just think it's stupid, but I also don't think these games, given they're free to play, should not have a store. I think a store should be in there, but it's just a shame they can't find a balance between earning rewards through gameplay, even if it requires a little extra legwork to get there, versus paying. Like, I wish we had more of an option rather than just, that's the only way you can get it. It's just very annoying. So it's just a bummer because the game is very fun to play. Yes. I think every new character I played as is incredible. The new maps are fun. The new game modes are cool. Mm-hmm. It runs flawlessly on my PC. So every time I played that with you so far, which has, again, been maybe 5 to 8 matches or so, has been so much fun. Yeah. What else about it has been kind of a negative to you? I know I'd rather talk about the positives, obviously, but like things that you think could use some improvement.
Honestly, it's really just the monetization. Everything else about the game, I've absolutely loved so far. Like, I'm having so much fun playing this game again. I'm just going to talk about what I actually do enjoy about it, though, because it really is just the story. It's just like, so a lot of people are like motivated. They're driven to play games because they want to earn things, or, they want to like rank up or achieve a certain thing in a game. Like, so you can do your weekly challenges, and those give you like a currency that you can spend in the store, but you're getting so few every week that it's like it's going to take 2 weeks just to purchase a voice line. Like, imagine how long it's going to take to buy a legendary skin. I think it would take like over a month.
All designed that way too, because they tease you with a little bit. It's like, oh man, I'm so close, but I want it now. So I'll drop 10, 20 bucks to finally get the skin. It's like one way or another, they're trying to convince you to spend money in the store.
Yeah. It's really just this bundle that set me off, because it's only going to be here for a limited time, and that's going to go away. So it's like, hey, if you don't buy this $25 bundle, you're not getting the skin. Sorry. It's like, oh, thanks. Like, don't give me any skin that I can earn in the game through, some Halloween challenges. Please don't do that. That would be terrible. But I mean, they do give you one skin for just logging in during the event. It's like a sorry for like the Rocky launch, because I don't know if you heard, there was a lot of server problems when the game first released. So it's like a, hey, sorry we messed up. Here's I think it was a Reaper skin. It's like some little Halloween theme thing, which is cool. I'm glad they did that. But really, the only thing that you can earn with the challenges in the event is, I think you get one like player card, you get some voice lines, and maybe a spray or two. That's about it. Like, you're not earning anything that is really impactful when you're playing the game. So, and like I said, that's really the only downside to any of this, because I have so much fun when I play the game. Most of my hours are logged as support. Been playing a ton of the new hero, Kiriko. She's an absolute blast. I love her play style. It kind of lets me play Genji while also being in a support role. So I'm like, basically, like, you can go on flanks with like, some of your flanky DPS, or, a tank that goes to the back line. And as long as you play it right, you can also safely get out, or like maybe you have time to get a free kill, and then you like teleport out with her shift. Basically, I like sort of supporting and also being able to attack at the same time. It's kind of like a unique little support play style that, something like a Mercy or a Zenyatta can't really do, because there's, they have no mobility at all. I mean, well, I guess Mercy does. She can be up in the sky and stuff, but you know what I mean. Other than that, been really enjoying Sojourn. She's like the new soldier style, basically a DPS. Just she's got a gun, and she's really good. By the way, she's probably better than Soldier, depending on how you play the game. Garrett, I know you're a big Soldier fan, but she has some, like, her sniper shot, once you get a charge, it's deadly. There are just so many times where I've just gotten some like 3 or 4 piece headshot kills by popping her ultimate, and like it's just easy. Like, as long as you can click heads, she's easy to play, and her slide's really fun too. Been enjoying 5v5. That's the whole game is 5v5 now. So they got rid of a tank, so it's just one tank, 2 DPS, and 2 supports. I think it's felt better overall. I think back in the first game, it was a big problem where you just felt like you were shooting shields all the time. So I feel like this game kind of gives you like more of a sense of like, perhaps I can carry this by, getting 2 or 3 kills for my team. And, whereas before, like, maybe you couldn't do that because there's just 2 huge hulking bodies blocking the whole other team from you getting any snipes or any kills. I just feel like there's more playmaking opportunity with the smaller team sizes and one less tank, because the tanks are the hardest to take down. But I feel at the same time, I feel like that's also opened up the door for like, so as a support player, I always feel like I'm getting flanked all the time by like tracers, Genjis, Reapers. They'll like teleport behind me and kill me. So I'm always like trying to focus on healing my team, but at the same time, I'm like constantly looking back behind where my character is just to make sure I'm not getting flanked, because every other match it seems like someone's out trying to kill me. But I've also enjoyed the new game type. It's called Push. I think there's 3 new maps for that game type, and I think we've played on at least one of them. Overall, I mean, I could sit here and talk about the game all day. Is there anything specific you want me to talk about, Garrett?
No, I'm just glad to hear you're enjoying it because what little I've played, I've also loved it. And I can attest to all the new characters as well. Kiriko's fun. Sojourn is awesome. Way more fun to play Sojourn. It's kind of a shame because you got to imagine Blizzard has learned a lot from Overwatch 1 in terms of like what's fun for a character. I mean, I think every character, I've never really disliked any character in Overwatch, but I was mentioning it while we were playing the Halloween event. It's just amazing game design to me that you can have a huge roster of characters. Balancing is very difficult, clearly. I mean, they've pulled characters in and out of this game in the first month. Even May's out of the game right now. But that's the big challenge. But for the most part, a lot of the characters work very well. What I love about the design is that there's so many and they all play differently, but they're very easy to pick up after like a few minutes, which is just brilliant to me. My favorite out of the new ones so far has been Junker Queen. She's just sick, dude. I think her throwable knife that drains health and like recalls it like the Leviathan axe from God of War is badass. The shotgun she has a little extra range on it is cool. Her boost ability to like call everyone into battle is awesome. What's that other thing she does? Oh, the hammer.
Yeah, her hammer.
Melee, yeah. The ultimate's great too. So all the new characters are super fun. Love the new maps, like I said. So everything I've experienced outside of the monetization side of things has also been just really positive for me. And it's also been a great reprieve because I have a lot to say about Modern Warfare 2 as well, which I'm mostly positive on. I have a couple of gripes with it, but when I get fed up with my experience in that game, hopping onto Overwatch with you has been just like a breather.
Yeah.
Again, it's also plagued by the live service model, but when we're just in a match playing it, it just feels like hanging with the boys, just having a good time.
Yep.
So, which is something I've sorely missed in a lot of multiplayer games recently. And for that, it just feels like a breath of fresh air.
100%.
So I will absolutely be continuing to play it. I'll probably inevitably buy the battle pass. For now, I'm just going to keep playing the free model or whatever because I'm not like eager for skins. I think skins are cool and all, but I'm not like dying to like dress my character up. I just enjoy the gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the game is fun and all the characters look like they all have a new skin for Overwatch 2, technically. Like they all got a slightly updated model. So
yeah,
those are new skins, technically. And they're free.
So yeah, man, I'm loving it so far. So I will absolutely hop on anytime you want to. I may even get into the competitive side. I know before you and I played the other night, you were playing a couple of competitive matches, but I'm all for if we can get at least a third to like really try hard and competitive. I'd rather obviously just play casually, but I'm down to like throw down into some competitive from time to time.
Oh yeah. All I gotta say is people get toxic, so just be ready.
Oh yeah, no surprise there. I expect and competitive, like I go in with that mindset. I don't blame them. Like I'm there to win as well. Like I want to succeed when I intentionally play ranked,
for sure.
Which is a whole nother topic in the live service model that's bothering me too with skill-based matchmaking. But we'll get there. But anything else you want to talk about in Overwatch before we move on?
Nah, man. I guess I'll mention they did rework a lot of the heroes. So like old Orisa that you might have known that throws down the shields and. I don't even remember what she used to do, but she has like a javelin now that she can throw. She can spin it in her hand and block incoming damage. She doesn't have her shield anymore. She's definitely a lot more fun now, I would say. So if you haven't tried her yet, definitely give her a whirl. Winston can like shoot a projectile out of his cannon now too. Like his right click will just shoot a little burst of lightning, which is cool. So, a lot of the heroes got slight reworks. So to either make them more viable for 5v5 or just completely rework them all together to make them, funner for people to play. So, but like I said, I've been having an absolute blast with the game and I'm not stopping anytime soon.
Likewise, brother. I'm excited to keep playing. It's very fitting tonight, too, to be talking about this while you're wearing your Diva shirt.
Yep.
You should have let me know. I would have worn my May shirt.
Oh, yeah. I should have let you know. I also got my Diva Funko Pop over here on my shelf.
Nice. Great character.
I really
GG! I love those characters.
She has the best voice lines.
Yeah, she's great. Winston is just adorable to me, dude. I'm a scientist. What did he say the other night we were laughing at? He's like, something about peanut butter pie or something.
Did someone say peanut butter?
Yeah, did someone say peanut butter? He's like, let's make this quick. I've got peanut butter banana muffins in the oven or something.
Garrett, do you know who Sigma is? He's one of the tanks.
I haven't played as him yet.
Okay, well, he's like this scientist dude that like, he floats and he has like these two little balls in his hands. He like holds them like this. And, one of his voice lines is so funny. I think it's when he casts his ultimate, maybe, or when he reflects something. He'll go like, "What is this melody?" And I don't know what he's talking about, but I just think it's so funny. That's how he says it.
Man, so many fun ones. That's what I really liked about just the taste of what the single player co-op mode will be like when it comes out. Is just all the dialogue between the characters, and the Halloween event was just fun and awesome.
Yeah.
So cannot wait to see more of that.
For sure. How about we talk about some Modern Warfare 2?
Let's do it, Jacob. You start us off, man. How you feeling about, I mean, you've obviously just barely scratched the surface of the full multiplayer release versus the beta. So before I jump in, let me know your just initial thoughts, your experience so far. Because I've played quite a bit, actually, since it launched.
Yeah, I've probably only played maybe 3 or 4 hours, so not very much at all. And I gotta say, I haven't really gotten the COD like multiplayer itch like I used to get. Like I used to, get it day one, jump right in and play multiplayer for like at least a week straight. But it hasn't really caught on this time around. I think it's because of 2 things. One, I think Overwatch 2 has really kept me away, first of all, which isn't really an issue because I'm still having fun. But secondly, honestly, I'm not having as much fun as I normally do in past CODs. Even like the last Modern Warfare, I had more fun. And I haven't really figured out why that is yet. I know one of the main factors is I'm not a huge fan of the maps so far. Like I'm just like there were a couple from the beta that I enjoy being on. Those have been fun because I kind of know those maps too. So I've had like better rounds on those maps because I know the maps. But like I went on one that was on a highway with all these cars. Like that was
everyone hates that one.
Yeah, I saw the meme. I think did you send it to me or?
Yeah, name a better duo, and it shows that map, and then everyone leaving.
Yeah, leave lobby. Yes.
Yeah.
That map it might be the worst map ever. Like it's just terrible.
I don't like it either.
There's this. I kind of like the one on the racetrack. I didn't like it at first, or like I don't think it's on a racetrack, but it's like outside of a racetrack. It's like a little facility. That one's kind of cool. I liked it on Domination. I'll say that. And I think I played a hardline on it, which is cool. There was this one that was in like this deserted town. I absolutely hated that map.
I found out that's a remake of a Call of Duty 1 map that I didn't even recognize at first.
Yeah, like it all just looked the same to me, and it's so easy. Like people just blended in everywhere. Like if I eventually just switched to a sniper because I couldn't do anything. Like everyone was just hiding. That's another problem I have with this game. It's like everyone's just camping all the time. I feel like no one's running around like I do. And the footsteps are so freaking loud. Like whenever you sprint, it's so loud. It annoys the crap out of me. Like I know COD's always had footsteps, but I just feel like it's too much now. I don't like how realistic it kind of is now, I guess. But that's just me. But I've enjoyed sort of like exploring the trees for the guns. That's been kind of cool. I sort of have like a loadout going right now where I have a M4 AR, then I have like whatever perk package lets you equip 2 primaries. So my secondary will be a SMG. So I feel like in a lot of maps I can go in like look down a long lane, I can pull out my AR, and then when I'm going inside I can switch to my SMG. And I sort of like that loop, I guess, of just having the 2 different, ranges in one loadout. And then I have like a sniper loadout. And then I have just a straight like rushing SMG build. Haven't played a whole lot, like I said, but those are just some like very, very early impressions. I know you have much, much more to add on this front.
Yeah, I actually having played roughly 15 or so hours, I have a much different perspective. Initially, I wasn't ever negative about it, but I knew it would take me a bit of time to, one, of course, learn the maps, learn the systems, and get sort of formulated to the current meta of the game. And what I've come to realize are 2 major points for me that I'll kind of branch my whole thought process off of. Infinity Ward definitely branded this game correctly when they were marketing it as the new era of Call of Duty. I wasn't exactly sure what they meant about that. Even having played the beta, I wasn't exactly sure. There were obvious changes in the beta, but now that we have a full set of maps and all of the game modes, all the weapons at our disposal, and the way you rank up those weapons and unlock attachments and camos, that's a big contributor to the new quote-unquote new era of Call of Duty. But the major change for me that I've realized is that I've had to pretend that I'm playing Rainbow Six Siege regardless of the game mode.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I know what you mean.
Sounds crazy because it doesn't sound like Call of Duty, but it does still play like Call of Duty. It's just a bit slower.
Yeah.
Because every match, my first several, I just wanted to run around like crazy like I always do in Call of Duty and just shoot guys. But it's almost impossible to do that. Don't get me wrong. There are every now and then there are a couple of matches where I've succeeded in doing that, but 99% of the time when I run around like a madman, it just goes badly for me.
Yeah.
So now that I've taken a step back and just chilled out a little bit, don't be wrong, I'm not camping ever, but I definitely will get to an area, I'll hang out for a little bit, regardless of the game mode, listen for footsteps, listen for gunfire if we don't have a UAV, and then navigate from there. And 9 times out of 10 matches flow better that way. I get a lot more kills. I die much less. I can also successfully get to objectives if I just chill out a little bit. And I actually really enjoy that. That's one thing that turned me off to Vanguard, because I covered a bit of Vanguard before it released for COD Connected. I played a ton of Vanguard multiplayer and actually did extremely well. But that game mostly caters to a run and gun style of gameplay. And I enjoyed it, but it was so fast paced that it turned me off to it. I'm like, this is complete insanity to me. And wasn't really into it. I kind of like a more bit of a slower pace. I mean, traditionally, like you think of old school Modern Warfare was fast paced, but it was never the Vanguard levels of pacing. Modern Warfare 2019 was similar in that regard, but this is definitely even more pulled back because you really do have to rely on a moment-to-moment situation with the sound design of the game, the weapon you're using, the attachments you're using, the score streaks and kill streaks make a huge impact, which I really, really enjoy about it because you're really having to rely on the game design itself rather than just the commodity of, oh, with my Dead Silence perk, I'm a ninja, no one can hear me. And then, like if all the gunshots appear as red dots in the map, I can just focus on my mini map and not focus on the game audio or like the map or like spawns or team placement. More so than in my recent memory in Call of Duty, I have to be hyper aware of where my teammates are on the map, where the spawns are happening in relation to where my teammates are, my brain working differently based on the game mode. And all that's just very engaging to me. Once I got through that initial learning curve, it was rough. Don't get me wrong. I had some rough matches in there. But once you get used to like, oh, now this is how Infinity Ward has designed this game. And like, this is how this map works. It makes it way more enjoyable. So I've actually kind of caught the Call of Duty bug again. I'm actually itching to get back to it because once you get into that understanding, it just kind of clicks for you. At least it did for me. And because of that, I enjoy the match-to-match experience for the most part. And I think the camo grind and weapon grind, some people have claimed they don't like it very much, but I'm way into it, dude, because traditionally in my Call of Duty history, I played since the very first one, I will find 1 or 2 guns I like in the game, and that's all I play with for the rest of the game. Same thing with perks. Perks have always kind of been an afterthought to me. I know they've been a big deal in the past. They've kind of had changes over the years, but this is the biggest change they've had where you start off with your 2 main perks. You have to earn your 3rd one, and then you earn like your ultimate perk by the end based on how well you're performing, which I think is kind of cool because I've never been that crazy about perks anyway.
It's very MOBA-esque. That's how MOBAs kind of work.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a little mini dopamine hit because you kick ass in the first 30 seconds. Like, oh, I already have my 3rd perk. That's cool to me. Like, it doesn't bother me. And that 3rd perk really isn't the game changer necessarily anyway. So that still doesn't bother me. Even the beta didn't bother me. But what I've really enjoyed is I'll look at a weapon I really want to unlock. And it says, oh, if you want to unlock this weapon, you got to get this other weapon to level 13. So I'll grind out that weapon. And it, at least for the game's first couple of weeks, it gives people an opportunity to enjoy the entirety of the sandbox. Because if you want all these other different weapons, it forces you to play with other weapons you wouldn't normally probably pick. Mm-hmm. So I've really enjoyed that. I've gotten to enjoy all these other guns I would have probably just like been an afterthought to me. It's been cool. And if there's a particular attachment for a gun that then becomes universal for all your other guns in that class, you can grind that out. Same thing with the camos. There's a ridiculous amount of camos that all have different challenges attached to them and requirements, but that's cool to me. It gives you a ton to do day one. And don't get me wrong, there's a couple missing features I want to see return that are hopefully coming very soon, but for the most part, there's a ton of content in this game. And there will inevitably be more maps. Obviously, Warzone's coming, DMZ is coming. The Tier 1, which was formerly known as Hardcore, is coming. The Hardcore modes are coming. They're going to put more maps in the game over time. So the next 2 years are going to be rife with content. I have no worries about that. But even just day one up until now, there's a ton to grind out, a ton to play. All those things are huge positives for me. Everything else is pretty standard Call of Duty for the most part. It just feels fun to play to me now that I've learned it. One of my bigger gripes is, I hate to just beat a dead horse at this point because everyone's talking about this, but the skill-based matchmaking can be pretty frustrating at times. It's very, very intense. Yeah. Because I'll get on, I'll play 1 or 2 matches, and it'll feel pretty laid back. I'll do really well, but I have to try especially hard after that because It's kind of impressive. It's like my reactions to it it's kind of like a duality, because there's part of me that greatly respects how well they've designed it, because it's impressive how locked in the skill-based matchmaking is. And then on the other hand, it's very frustrating because it gets very tiring quickly, because whether I win or lose after my first couple of matches, we win or lose by 1 or 2 kills, 1 or 2 points every single match. And that's kind of amazing when you think about it, that they've managed to figure it out that well, that you're always playing with people that are almost entirely at your level. So that's impressive, but if I do that for more than 2 hours, dude, I'm just exhausted. And I think that's what's made Overwatch 2 hit even harder for me, is that I'll do that for 2 hours, and jumping into Overwatch just feels laid back no matter what to me.
Yeah. Well, you're playing quick play, so.
Yeah.
You're not in the comp scene yet.
That's true.
You'll feel exhausted, trust me.
But that's a bummer too, because playing alone is one thing, but as soon as you team up with buddies, it like triples the skill-based matchmaking. It makes it even more hardcore. Yeah. So,
dude, anytime I play with you, I feel like I can't do anything. When I play solo, I do a lot better.
Once you learn the maps and kind of get into that groove I talked about, we're just taking a step back and just, the only time I've begun to sprint in that game is if I'm sprinting from one part of cover to another part of cover. I rarely just ever like sprint down a hallway or like sprint around a corner. I'm very careful about my sprint, because that gets me killed more than anything. And that's how I get a lot of my kills, because people sprinting around like crazy people.
Yeah.
So
then I always feel like I get killed because people know where I am and I don't know where they are, but I can hear them. But if they know where I am with the UAV, like, I'm just finished.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. And again, not to backtrack too much, but that's what I like about the kill streaks and score streaks and not having red dots in the main map, is that when you get a UAV or someone gets a counter UAV, that's a big deal for your team, because it completely changes the flow of the match in your favor.
Yes.
So that's cool to me. Those are mostly all the positives that I can think of off the top of my head. The only negative so far is that the game is still pretty buggy, and I have a pretty good PC. Now, when the game functions, it runs perfectly for me. Looks awesome. I almost run max frame rate every match I play, which is pretty amazing, at least in the 6v6 maps. But every match I jump into since launch, the first 30 seconds, the latency or the connection to the match fluctuates rapidly, where it'll go from like 18 milliseconds to 1,000 and just back and forth. So I drop frames, like 50 frames at a time, like for the first 30 seconds, where I'm literally juddering around and can't do anything. And then finally the game kicks into gear and it runs perfectly. And it's interesting because the campaign cutscenes did the same thing for me, where the campaign missions running totally fine, but as soon as a pre-rendered cutscene comes on, I'll drop frames significantly for the first 30 seconds, then it runs perfectly. So that's a really strange bug I haven't seen before. And I know I'm not the only one. That's happened to a lot of people. A lot of people experience crashes, specifically when they party up with friends. I've also experienced that. That's a problem. It's a little buggy at launch, which is fairly abnormal for Call of Duty, I feel. But I know crossplay is still kind of a new thing. It's been around for obviously 3 or 4 years now, but that's got to be a major contributor to those issues. They just got to iron out, which makes sense to me. I mean, a lot of people played the beta, but of course, a lot more people are playing the full release. So ironing out all those bugs is top priority. A couple of the missing features that I also would like to see are the return of blueprints, where, you build a gun in Gunsmith and you can make a blueprint of that. So if you want to change it up and do something else, you can always come back to that blueprint and just return it to the form you had it before. Those are currently missing in the game, which were in 2019. Barracks are missing, which is really surprising to me, that you can't see any of your in-game stats other than just the previous match you played.
Really?
So no one knows what their KD is. No one knows what their win-loss ratio is. All that's missing. And the weird thing is that
weird.
As of recording this podcast, Infinity Ward hasn't commented on why it's missing or when we can expect to see it.
It's like the first time it's ever been missing.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me that that's not in there. Maybe it's coming with Season 1. It could be a situation where it'll just be seasonally based, what I'm hoping the case is Season 1 happens, that's when everything gets logged when the season starts. And then when the next season begins after that, you can always go back and like see your previous season stats and compare and contrast. Maybe that's what they're doing, but they haven't said that, so I don't know.
You know what's ironic is that Overwatch 1 was a game that never had like the scoreboard like that you could just tab and look at it in the game. But now Overwatch 2 does. So it's like they've role reversed these two
flip-flopped,
games.
Yeah. So that's missing. Custom reticles are missing. Those are the 3 big ones for sure. The universal unanimous complaint people are raging about is the skill-based matchmaking, because it just feels more intrusive than ever. I can live with it, but I wish it felt like the older games. I mean, developers have all said skill-based matchmaking has always been in the game, but it's never felt as hardcore as it does today, ever. So I think I said this in a previous episode of the podcast, maybe it was a Halo video I did, where I would much rather get on and I'd have just a fluctuation. We play a few super easy, play one or two that are really competitive, and play a couple that we just get our asses kicked. That's just way more fresh to me. And that's what compels me to play a game for longer periods of time in one sitting versus just playing for a couple hours and hopping off. And it sounds counterintuitive to me because you can tell with all these live service games, the whole goal is to make as much money as possible, to keep people engaged with the content, to want to spend money to upgrade camos or skins, whatever it may be. And you'd think they design it in a way where people would want to play more. But the argument being is, oh, you're just catering to casuals because they'll get on and like feel like they can actually do well and not get slaughtered all the time. There's an argument to be had there that I can't disagree with, but everyone believes that the skill-based matchmaking is as intense as it is to keep the masses engaged for as long as possible and to hopefully make more money. Where it's having the opposite effect on me, because if I play 1 or 2 hours where I'm just having to work my ass off, I'm having fun for the most part, but I'm just tired by the end of that and just can't do it anymore. Again, I have no plans to spend money in the store or whatever they're doing with the game. I'm just going to play the game for fun and just grind whatever content's available to me in the game, which thankfully there's a lot of it at launch. That's like the big issue people are having with it on top of all the bugs. So mostly for me, though, it's very positive. Love the weapon grind, love the camo grind. The only map I really just don't like is that stupid highway map you mentioned. Even the wide open one you talked about that's in that destroyed city. It is a fun sniping match in the right game mode. Now, Team Deathmatch is a nightmare, dude. I can't stand it. That's what I played. But like Hardpoint or Headquarters, it's a pretty fun map to play. And the sniping, dude, is so much fun in this game. It's better than it's been in years because it rewards accuracy. If you get a headshot, of course, it's one-shot kill. Every now and then, if you hit someone in the chest, it's a one-shot kill. Occasionally be 2 shots, but there's so much customization with the weapons in this game. So many different ways to snipe, and even just the snipers by themselves are just incredibly fun to play with. It's been cool though, dude. I get on and just see all the different camos people have and like the different attachments they've unlocked. You can tell people have their preferences. And it's the first time in a long time I've noticed in a Call of Duty where people are really thriving in their playstyle and everyone's rewarded for their playstyle, which is a pretty hard thing to pull off. I'm having fun with it, man. I can't wait to play more of it. Of course, stoked for Warzone 2, especially DMZ is what I'm just very eager to see more of because I'm way into the extraction shooter stuff. And one thing Call of Duty's always done very successfully is they've taken pre-existing ideas, which you can, of course, can call derivative, but I think it's not necessarily a bad thing when developers adopt ideas and make them their own. And Call of Duty's been very successful in taking existing ideas in the past and putting their own inviting spin onto it, where it's maybe not quite as hardcore as that existing mode, but it's designed in a way that it's accessible is the word I'm looking for. So Tarkov is probably the most hardcore shooter I've ever played, but I do love it. So I'm interested to see what Call of Duty does to make that just a bit more casual friendly. I don't want it to feel casual, but just accessible enough to where you can get into it and have that same hardcore challenge, but still have fun with it. So that's why I'm eager to see more of that. I think that's all I have to say about Call of Duty, Jacob. I encourage you to play more, especially with me if you can, because I think once you learn the maps and kind of get into the loop of unlocking stuff, it's really fun. So
for sure.
I would rather it not be a live service model. I look forward to those missing features getting into the game hopefully soon. But ultimately, it's been positive, and I'm excited to play more.
Yeah. I'm like still in that stage where I just don't know everything well enough, so I need to keep playing more.
That's the mindset I had to go in with because every multiplayer competitive shooter, but especially Call of Duty, man, I knew like these first few hours may be pretty rough, and they were. But once you figure it out, it's worth it, man. It's a good time. That being said, Jacob, is there anything else you've been playing before I jump into the rest of mine? I'll be quick about the others.
No.
Cool. I beat BioShock 1, did a video on it why I don't think it needs a remake. That's on YouTube if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on that. But that game's still a masterpiece. Long story short, I don't think it needs a remake. But if you want to know the specifics as to why I believe that, it's in that video. Started BioShock 2, and I have very few memories of BioShock 2. I remember the major plot points, but it was fun jumping into the original and then right into the second one because you can see how it graphically improved and just the design of the levels was cool to see. I don't know when I'm going to get back to BioShock 2 because all these other games are coming out and God of War is right around the corner as well. So probably won't be playing BioShock 2 again for a while, but also jump back into Arkham Knight because the Gotham Knights whole debacle online with people being dissatisfied with it. Some people have been really into it. Preston's kind of into it, but I have zero interest. And that reminded me, like, hey, I replayed Arkham Asylum and City this year, and I started Night. I should get back to that. So jumped into that and played a bit more, and that game still is just so good, dude. And we definitely have our gripes. It's not perfect. A lot of the side content is not amazing, but just mechanically with the Batmobile is so cool. The world design's great. The main missions are cool. Everything about it is just the ultimate Batman experience for the most part, and I was reminded of that. So great game. Got on my hunt kick for a little while, played for about a week straight before Call of Duty came out. Still love that game. Super fun. The little beetle that someone wrote in about recently is actually a lot of fun to use. A little stalker beetle that you throw out, and it kind of works as a drone to survey areas. It can also explode if you want it to near someone and drain their health a little bit and poison them. So those are pretty fun. And I think it's a great addition to the game. It doesn't hurt the game whatsoever. Played a decent amount of Mario Galaxy on Switch on my recent trip for work. We were gone for 10 days, so I had plenty of Switch time. And played probably about 25% of that game. And it's a pretty big game. I didn't expect it to be as big as it is, but a lot of people have said the sequel is much better. But even just the original, I'm just so impressed with the game design. Like all the levels, just the diversity of them. And of course, just aesthetically, but also just the mechanics they throw at you and the ideas are just fun. Just good old-fashioned Mario fun. Dug it. And the big one for me, Jacob, that I did not expect to be talking about is I've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk. I've played probably 25 hours of Cyberpunk recently.
Wow.
And I'm happy to say that the anime was part of what encouraged me to jump into it like a lot of other people. But like I said, I've had that itch for a while, and every time I've given it a chance, which was 2 times before this, it was right around the launch window, and then maybe 6 months after that, I just couldn't get into it. And I think what was different this time are all the new updates they brought to the game. The driving feels great. Guns feel great. The transmog system is much appreciated. And it finally clicked for me when I upgraded my guy just enough to where the abilities I wanted to use and the weapons I wanted to use were actually effective, and no one felt like bullet sponges anymore. Of course, bosses kind of feel that way, which is fine. But standard enemies I can take down pretty quick. So because of that, the core gameplay really clicked for me. And my eyes were open to just how much of an RPG it is and just how much you can make it your own. So major pluses, really dug the main story stuff I've played and all the side content. Night City, I know this is just said ad nauseum at this point, but it is so beautiful. The game looks incredible. On my PC, it runs very well. My favorite times are when it's at night, especially when it's raining. It just makes it so beautiful. Just love driving around. It's fun. I even like the, I think I'll call it like the Badlands is what the outskirts are called. It's fun being out there, all the unique characters and tribes of people you can meet out there. So the last 25 hours I played, dude, have been awesome. And I get why people who initially reviewed it on PC, even in spite of all the improvements they made since then, had a lot of good things to say about it. And initially it confused me. I'm like, are these people just blowing smoke because they wanted clicks initially and just got bought into the hype? But I think they were definitely genuine, because now that I've played, I think 40-ish, 50 hours of the game, barely scratched the surface of it, I've loved it, dude. I think it's great. And what's been most amazing to me is that it really does emphasize how skilled of a studio CD Projekt Red is, in spite of the horrific launch they had. Definitely a dire situation, but having played a lot of Cyberpunk, dude, it's fascinating how much different it is from The Witcher 3. Given all the games they're developing now, additional Cyberpunk content, the Witcher Remake we'll talk about in a little bit. It's incredible, dude. So just really well done, and I've really dug it. And I'm surprised I'm able to say that, because I did not expect to get back into it so soon. I may put it on the back burner a little bit with God of War coming out, but I fully intend to keep playing it because it's been fun. So, did you ever finish that game, or did you just play a little bit of it?
I just, played it for a few hours. I'll go back to it one day.
Yeah, I've had a good time. So, look forward to playing more. But that's it for me, Jacob. I know it was kind of long-winded, but...
No, you're good. You're good.
2 comments I wanted to make before we jump into the news. I mentioned on Twitter a while back, I think only like a handful of people probably saw this tweet, but I played MCC with Zach a while back and made a new memory in Halo that I didn't expect to ever have again. That felt very much like 2007. We played a match on Valhalla, which is a classic Halo 3 map. It was Capture the Flag, I think. Maybe it was Team Slayer. It was Team Slayer. And we were on a team that just was incredible. We all had like a dozen plus kills. And I think we got up to like 85 kills. And the team we were playing against had like 12. We were just destroying them. So because of that, the entire team quit except for one guy. And this was maybe 3 minutes into the match. So we have like a good 8 minutes left. We have to get to 100 kills. So the one guy being left, this guy's just sticking it out for 3 or 4 minutes. I'm like, man, this guy's really like just hanging out. So because of that, I mean, Zach and I have gotten to a point in MCC where we just like play with the text chat and like mess with people. So I was like, everyone, let's just all meet in the middle of the map and just like hang out for a minute. So our whole team and that one guy and the other team all meet in the middle of the map, just kind of like stand around. And then I message like, let's see if he can come all the way back just by killing us. And there's 2 minutes left in the match. He's down by like 45 kills. So he just starts going to town and all. It's like meleeing all of us, kills our whole team. So we all just start spawning at our base and flying back toward the middle and just letting him kill us. So he's slowly climbing as the counter's going back down. And we're like, go, 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 go. So we're all going back and he's just killing all of us over and over and over again. Finally gets into a wraith at the end. It's just blasting like 5 or 6 of us at a time. Goes all the way down. And in the last minute, I think he lost by like 2 or 3 kills. We didn't get quite there. But it was just so funny, dude, for us all to like band together and just let this guy try to come all the way back and beat us, which is such a rare occurrence in modern multiplayer games. It was just so much fun and so funny. And I haven't had a memory like that in a multiplayer game in years. So that was like a golden age Halo memory that I didn't ever expect to have again, which is just beautiful. So I wanted to share that story, that memories like that can still happen in the right scenario. So it was beautiful. And I don't think anyone will remember this, but last episode we were talking about how open worlds don't really, at least I said this, that open worlds don't really blow my mind anymore. And I almost feel like it's a chore as soon as I step into an open world. But I have to retract that statement because I totally forgot that Elden Ring came out this year. And that game has blown my mind with an open world that hadn't been done in a long time for me. So I owe it to myself to finish that game. I eventually will. It's one of those rare scenarios where I think this will tie better into a community question at the end, but I feel like Elden Ring, this isn't a bad thing, but it's almost too big for me. That's why I finally dropped off and needed to take a break because there's so much in that game that I just needed to step away for a while. Yeah. So I'm going to get back to it, but it's so massive that it almost after a while just exhausted me and I needed to take a break.
The only thing I don't like about Elden Ring's open world is that a lot of it is samey in terms of like, there's tons of, forest areas and there's tons of like mountainy, hilly areas that all kind of look the same. But at the same time, it does have a good variety of different biomes. But also, it's very empty. The world's very empty. Like outside of like the dungeons or the points of interest on the map. A lot of it just feels like empty space to me. Just wanted to throw that little rebuttal back at you. But I do still appreciate that world.
I hear that, but that's what's weird to me is that it's the one open world that has empty space that doesn't bother me as much because it's more so about what you're looking at and then also all the grotesque enemies you encounter in those areas. Yeah. Not to mention surprise bosses. I haven't once felt bored in that open world, and that's also what's impressive. It's kind of has that Breath of the Wild design where wherever you go, there's something to find, whether it's a secret cave or a chest or a surprise boss. There's always something around the corner, which is mind-blowing to me, given how big that open world is. And most open worlds don't do that. And also just the stripped-back nature of exploring it is also abnormal, where they just throw you into it and expect you to figure it out.
Yeah. I think Breath of the Wild is very similar. I think that's a very good comparison. I think it has like slightly more interesting things to find. For me personally. I think it does a better job. But I think Breath of the Wild is just one of the best games of all time. So it's very hard to compete with it. Not saying that Elden Ring is not, because it might very well win the game of the year this year.
We'll see. It's coming down to there's some pretty heavy hitters this year that we'll talk about in a bit. But Jacob, that's all I really wanted to say up front. So let's jump into our news at long last.
Let's do it.
Silent Hill, man, we got a lot of announcements that I was not expecting. A bit too much, I'd say. We'll see. I mean, Konami's like really swinging for the fences here, but here are all the announcements that were made at the Silent Hill event. The Silent Hill 2 remake is the biggest one easily. Silent Hill F is the brand new game in the franchise from the Resident Evil Reverse dev. Silent Hill 2's film adaptation is coming from the original film's director and producer, and also Silent Hill Townfall teaser trailer. So I don't really want to comment on all of them. It's just a lot more news than I expected. It'll be cool to see what a brand new Silent Hill game will be like, especially given a lot of people love the Silent Hills demo that was on PS4. But with the Silent Hill 2 remake, I've never played the original. I've heard it's one of the best horror games of all time, if not the best. It depends on who you talk to. I know Preston's been exposed to Silent Hill. From what I understand, I think he may have played one or two of them, but he mostly watched his uncle play the older Silent Hill games. And when I was a kid, he would go on and on and on about how much those games freaked him out. But I have no experience with them. I have the bare minimum exposure to the franchise, so I'm very open-handed and open-minded with what they're doing. I know the developer behind Silent Hills 2 Remake is the developer who did, what's that game called? The Medium, I think. And people were pretty lukewarm on the Medium. And when they were announced to be the developer, people weren't too excited. I can't comment on it. I haven't played the Medium, so I don't know. So all I can really say is that I'm very open-minded about it, but I love horror games. Getting a lot of great horror remakes right now. Plus a brand new one with the Callisto Protocol. So I don't really have much else to say. Is that surprising amount of news, open-minded about it. How you feeling about it?
Yeah, I've never really played Silent Hill, so definitely going to keep my eyes open for this. And if it looks good, I may very well pick it up. I mean, I like Resident Evil a lot now, so if it's anything like that or is spooky and looks fun to play, I imagine I'll play it. Why not?
Yeah.
The remake and the new game.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to pick them up myself just to experience them for the first time. So, yeah, not much to say, but I do have more to say about Resident Evil, speaking of horror games, with the recent Resident Evil showcase. I thought it was funny, too. It doesn't matter very much, but the world premiere title cards they do is like a thing now for every showcase. It's like world premiere to get people hyped up. And it's just funny when they say world premiere when we were fully aware of what was coming to Resident Evil Village with this update they're doing, the gold edition. It technically was a world premiere because they're showing more gameplay of it rather than just it being an announcement, but it's just funny. They added the third-person camera mode. I played the demo for that on PS5. It feels incredible. I still have no intention to replay Village. I thought Village was cool, but don't really want to replay it. But it does feel very good in third person. I can attest to that. And I might play the Shadow of Rose. I think that's what it's called. It doesn't say it in this article for some reason, but the DLC with Ethan's daughter, I've heard is kind of cool. It's just very short. It's like 3 hours. So that's in there. I know they showed that multiplayer game they have coming, which it's so funny to me because I made this comment at the end of Village where I don't know why I felt this way, but I'm playing through Village and I can just feel like the developers are just, you know that meme of the kid with the vein popping out of his head like he's going to explode, like he's just holding something in?
Yeah.
I think of that kid because I feel like the developers want to make Call of Duty so bad, but they just can't because they know it'll just enrage the fan base. It's like they tried it with Resident Evil 6 and it just has never worked out in their favor. But then you get to the end of Village and you play as Chris Redfield and it's straight up Call of Duty. There's like knockoff Call of Duty where it's like not even that fun to me. It's just like, this is ridiculous. After playing that like slow-paced, spooky horror thriller game. It's like they want to make it so bad, and you see their stupid multiplayer game coming that just looks like garbage to me. I'm sorry, it just looks so bad. I'm not a diehard Resident Evil guy. I've played all the games except for the first one, and I just don't understand the desire to make a multiplayer competitive game. It just looks dumb to me, but it just shows to me it's like they want to make Call of Duty so bad, dude, but they can't. So I have no interest in the multiplayer game. We'll see how it turns out. But the big one was the Resident Evil 4 Remake gameplay demo. I want to hear from you first, Jacob. Given you haven't played the original, just your initial impressions of that gameplay demo.
Yeah, I mean, it looked pretty good. Gave me a lot of reminded me quite a lot of RE2 Remake. Just the third person mode. I liked the destructible, like little, so he's like backing up through a shed, I think, and he shoots a fire from the ceiling and it drops down and it burns all the enemies in front of them. So I like that there's going to be like destructible environments like that or little things that you can do to sort of, take advantage of your surroundings. What else? The chainsaw guy was cool in the trailer or the gameplay. Just the ways that you can sort of like evade him and sort of like push things into him to stumble him for a second. I thought that was cool. Again, I don't know much about the original game. I'm sort of going off what I saw in the gameplay here, but it looks fun. I mean, I didn't really get a good sense of like who's the character in the Leon. Thank you. I didn't really get a good sense of like who he is or how he is in the game. I know you said he's like a fan favorite and people like how he acts in the game and he's like goofy and stuff.
It's Leon from Resident Evil 2, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but he's much. I feel like he's different in that game, right?
Yeah, I think he's 4 years older in Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, like he. I mean, I enjoyed him in 2, but he wasn't really like what stole the show for me in that game by any means. It's more about the environment and just the journey. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And this is a game I'm definitely going to pick up when it comes out. I was impressed.
Same, man. It's interesting to hear perspective. I've only played the original all the way through once. Preston's played it probably a dozen times all the way through on multiple platforms, and most other fans of Resident Evil 4 have played it at least a few times.
Mm-hmm.
But even the one playthrough I've had, I recognize just how great it was, and there's a lot I love about that original. So seeing this gameplay demo, and the original is pretty fresh in my mind. I replayed it about a year ago on PS, or played it all the way through for the first time on PS4. Still awesome, like still plays great, and that's why a lot of people, especially hardcore fans, are a little hesitant to, like, by all means remake the earlier games, but don't touch Resident Evil 4 because that game's still a masterpiece. So it's been cool to see that everyone, myself included, is very stoked about this. Of course, graphically it looks incredible, but what's most impressive is that they blended a lot of great new ideas with what people loved about the original. Of course, aesthetically it's similar but also different. Notable change is, in this demo, he goes into this house where you go in the beginning, and initially you just like and immediately encounter someone, and like the game takes off. But in this, it seems like you creep through this house, and it's kind of spooky and eerie, and you're figuring out what's going on. And they skip around a little bit, so we don't know exactly how it plays out. But that's a little different. Major gameplay changes are your knife has durability now, so it isn't just invulnerable. Because the loop in the original was, you know, like knife someone, and then you roundhouse kick them down, and if you need to use your gun, you can use your gun. But that was kind of the loop, but they've added durability now. So whenever you use it, you're whittling that down, and it can also be used to counter the chainsaw guys, which previously could kill you in one hit. So that makes it way more tense and interesting, is that you can't always rely on that knife. There's also crafting in the game now, which is new. So it's one thing to find ammo in the original game when you're searching through boxes, but the fact that you can choose what to craft with the items you find makes exploring really interesting. They've added a stealth mechanic where you can crouch and maybe avoid enemies entirely, which is new. That's cool. It's also nice to see that it retains the original personality of Leon, where he's like an action superstar, where he like will make quips as he's running through. A big one from this demo that people loved is when he goes through the barn and with the new environmental destruction shoots a lantern that falls on the cow and it ignites in flames to block the enemies coming. He's like, bill me for the damages later or something. It's like stupid stuff like that he would say the original. And the roundhouse kick is in there, like I mentioned, which is a big deal. People are hoping the suplex is in there, where you grab someone with your arms and then like wrestle move them to the ground and their head explodes when they hit the ground. So I'm assuming if all this other stuff is in there, that'll be in there too. I'm hoping we can just discover that for ourselves in the full game. I've definitely seen enough, but just that demo looked amazing. All the new gameplay elements I've thrown in there look awesome, including the narrative trailer that plays afterward. You can see all the classic characters are in there, some of whom people were surprised to see, myself included. Some of the big bosses. A lot of other stuff they're keeping under wraps, which I appreciate because I want to just experience as much of that game as possible without being spoiled. So overall, dude, just the gameplay demo blew my mind. Everyone who went hands-on had nothing but positive things to say about it. So it's rare when you see, especially a remake, dude, everyone be so positive about it. It's just gets you even more hyped. So it's kind of a bummer it doesn't come till March. I mean, that's going to come sooner than we know. It's going to come very quickly, but I want to play it so bad. And it's also the rare instance where I was almost compelled. I didn't do it, but I was almost compelled to buy the collector's edition just out of respect. Because I'm like, this is so impressive what they're doing with this. But I hesitated, but I almost did it, which is a very rare temptation for me. So, yeah, man, I'm so pumped for it. I think it looks great.
Nice, dude. Yeah, I'm pumped.
Speaking of remakes, Jacob, CD Projekt Red announced that they are remaking the first Witcher game, which is awesome, but also a surprise given everything they have going on right now. So on the 26th of October, they announced this little article that I'll read through real quick. It says, "We are thrilled to announce the Witcher remake is being worked on. That's right, the game that started it all is being rebuilt from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5. The game is currently in early stages of development at the Polish studio Fool's Theory, where veteran Witcher series staff are involved. CD Projekt Red are providing full creative supervision, treating it with the utmost care and detail, so they'll share more news later. I guess they're outsourcing it just with some of the original developers attached to it. Very cool. That's one of those instances where a game I think absolutely deserves to be remade, given the first one. I never played the first one, but I'm very familiar with what it looks like and how it plays. And that's a game that could definitely use a remake. And given the newfound popularity of the franchise, not only with Witcher 3 success, Witcher 4 in development, or the new trilogy in development, and the success of the show, which is another topic we'll get to in a second, I think it's a great time for it to be remade. Won't see it for years, probably, at least a few years, but yeah, it's cool to know that it's happening. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is cool. It's exciting. I also never played the first one, never played the second one either. I've only played Wild Hunt. I think I would be very interested in checking this game out. It's very old at this point, so there's no chance I ever go back and play the original game. It's also kind of it's not an easy game from what I've heard. It's very I don't want to say hardcore, but it's very like just like frustrating in some ways that it goes about its gameplay. And you really got to know how to navigate through the game to get through it, I think. But I did watch someone do like a walkthrough of the game when when Witcher 3 was coming out. I like watched a walkthrough of the first one and the second one just so I could like kind of know what's going on in the Witcher universe. So, but from what I remember, it was very interesting. Its narrative, at least in some ways. I definitely intend to keep my eye on this one, and I'm all for it. Like I loved Witcher 3, and I love this series. I love the show, so I imagine I'll play this for sure.
I definitely will. I imagine it's in good hands. Like I said, given I've played a good bit of Cyberpunk now, I still believe CD Projekt Red is an incredible development studio. Now, I know they're outsourcing this, but with original talent involved, I trust it's in good hands. This really bridges us into our main topic that I think could be an interesting conversation is philosophies of these game studios when it comes to remaking classics. Kind of the remake renaissance we're in. Over the last few years, we've had some really great remakes. I don't think we've necessarily had a bad remake so far from what I can remember. And we have many more coming in the near future. And each studio's had a different philosophy on what they do to bring these games back from the dead. Not really to say they're dead, but to really enhance them in positive ways. And the most interesting comparison currently is The Last of Us Part 1 versus the Dead Space remake we have coming soon. Last of Us Part 1, from those who have played it and those who are relatively aware of that game, it's very similar to the original. It looks night and day different, and the major changes are the AI does feel much more modern, and the crafting system is more similar to Last of Us Part 2. But aside from that, it's pretty much the same game, which isn't a problem for me because it still felt like a modern game to me. I loved every second of it. Platinumed it, and it's still a masterpiece to me. Some people didn't like that it didn't add mechanics that Ellie had in Last of Us Part 2, but I'm on the other side of the fence, whereas Joel should play differently from Ellie. I think Last of Us Part 2 is a much more fun gameplay experience overall, but one, I think with Joel, he should have felt different from Ellie, so I didn't have a problem with them adding in Ellie's mechanics into Part 1. That being said, Dead Space is taking a whole different approach where, yes, it's the same game, but the Ishimura is no longer level-based, isn't full of loading screens. There may be some hidden loading screens in there, but for the most part, it's a completely open ship that you can explore and go to and from areas at will. I know they've added additional side content, and a major addition that I'm really on the fence about is they've made Isaac fully voiced. He's fully voiced in 2 and 3, but what made the first one even more full of tension was that Isaac didn't speak at all. He was just a silent protagonist. All you got were screams and heavy breathing, and I think that really places you in his shoes much more effectively than when he speaks, because then you're in the suit. It's not Isaac anymore. I mean, yes, it is him, but you can really kind of put your own emotions onto him because he's not speaking for you. So that's a big change, but that's an interesting comparison. And now we know we have, Silent Hill 2 is coming. RE4 is clearly coming. And RE4 is a similar, like we mentioned a few minutes ago, but also it has wild new changes that seem to be a very good thing. Given that you've seen a walkthrough of Witcher 1, how do you think it could drastically improve aside from just graphically?
Probably in every way possible, honestly. So Witcher 1's easy because it's such an old game at this point. Like it's very stiff. It doesn't look good. It's the gameplay is very like slow, and it's a lot how like old games, like combat.
What does the combat look like?
As far as I remember, I think it's just like very like, it's not Elder Scrolls like, but it's sort of like stiff like that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there's not a whole lot of variety in the combat, I don't think.
Because the only combat experience I played a bit of Witcher 2, which Witcher 2 has decent combat, but Witcher 3 had that fluidity and satisfying gore that made the combat in Witcher 3 really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's no Witcher 3, but it's still like the third person thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain.
Is it also kind of like hub world based where you're bouncing from town to town, or is it?
Yeah.
It's because I'm assuming it's not open world, the original.
No.
Okay.
A lot of loading screens.
That's my big thought with the Witcher remake, is that we were just talking about open worlds and that they don't really blow our minds as much as they used to. would Witcher 1 benefit from an open world and all the things that CD Projekt Red and other developers have sort of evolved about open worlds over the last few years? And you think about this game's at least a few years out, if not more. How will open worlds and game design evolve and change for better or worse over the next few years that may impact the design of this game, you know?
I mean, if done right, it certainly could benefit it, but at the same time, like, I don't know if it really needs it. I don't know. Like, if I was remaking it, I don't know if I would focus on making it open world if it already wasn't. That just seems like, because a lot of people like the first Witcher. Like, a lot of people also don't, or they don't like it as much as the other two. But I don't think you want to change it too much, because maybe it's like a Resident Evil 4 situation where a lot of people like the original, and you shouldn't play with that too much without pissing people off. But I don't think people like that game as much as people like Resident Evil 4 by any means. RE4 is like one of the goats. Honestly, I don't know the game well enough, if we're talking about that game in particular.
Yeah, because you know more about it than I do because you watched the walkthrough. I've only seen bits and pieces of Witcher 1. I played about 10 hours of Witcher 2, never finished it, but Witcher 1 I'm very ignorant of. So.
I mean, honestly, it's a lot more RPG than Witcher 3 is. And when I say that, it's a lot more like reading books. It's like crafting your poisons or whatever, whatever he drinks to like have immunities. It's a lot more of that kind of stuff, and like, you know, talking to people in towns, and you know, going to find the right people to progress quest lines, and you can go. I think there was still dialogue, if I'm remembering correctly, but it was just a lot slower. If that makes sense. It wasn't as actiony.
It'll be interesting because I'm sure Witcher 1 has its hardcore fan base, but I don't know anyone personally who's a hardcore Witcher 1 fan, and I've never seen much positive sentiment toward Witcher 1 online. So I think they're in a really good place here where they can make big decisions about what they want it to be themselves. I don't have any intention of playing the original. And in fact, people that have played the original mostly say just don't even waste your time. Yeah. So I'm interested to see what decisions they make, because I think they're in a rare instance where it can only benefit from a remake, whereas some of these other games, 100%. It's like you're playing with fire remaking them.
Yeah, I don't even think the first one was on console. I think it was only PC.
Right.
So
but that's great that we're getting more Geralt, because I know with this new trilogy they're going to develop over the next probably decade or longer is not focused on Geralt. He may pop up, of course, but he won't be the focus, which I'm all for. Like, I think he's had a great run in video games. That being said, though, another kind of interesting situation with remakes are both the Prince of Persia and Splinter Cell remakes from Ubisoft. Notably Splinter Cell, because the more news we hear about this dude, the worse I feel about it. I was turned off to the idea of a remake the day they announced it, because I'm like, that seems like such a cop-out and such a peer pressure type of response to the Splinter Cell franchise, because people have been hounding, again, just the core fan base have been hounding Ubisoft for years about where's Splinter Cell, where's Splinter Cell? And then they announce a remake is just kind of underwhelming to me, because that just seems like the obvious thing to do. I'm like, well, everyone else is remaking classic games, let's remake Splinter Cell. And Splinter Cell is still like a solid game given how old it is. But they keep announcing things about it where, you know, they're going to modernize the story and modernize the gameplay. And it gets to a point with some of these remakes where can you even call it a remake anymore if you're rewriting the story? You have to drastically change a lot of Splinter Cell's gameplay. Don't be wrong, there's a lot of really hardcore stealth mechanics in there that stand the test of time that are interesting. But stealth games have come so far since Splinter Cell that you have no choice but to like try some new things and modernize it in a gameplay sense as well. I don't even know if you can call it a remake anymore. And they also just announced that the game director stepped away from Ubisoft. So it's in someone else's hands now. So to me, it just sounds like a bad situation. And it just kind of like is underwhelming to me for the franchise. Yeah. I would have much rather than developed a brand new Splinter Cell. As much as I love Sam Fisher, do a new character and modernize the gameplay for a new generation. Don't backtrack and drastically change the original. I don't even have many fond memories of the original. I haven't played all of them. I played 3 or 4 of them. The first one is kind of whatever to me, personally. I know Preston has great memories with it, but to me, it just sounds like a kind of a dumb situation. And I can't imagine too many people getting stoked about it when it comes out anyway.
I can't imagine anyone being stoked about any Ubisoft game. Like that's publisher is in a real rut right now.
Definitely in a rut. I mean, they do have some all-time classics. Aren't they remaking Assassin's Creed 1? Wasn't that an announcement recently too that I'm forgetting?
I don't think so.
Oh no, I'm losing my mind. It's the Mirage. It plays similar to the original Assassin's Creed trilogy. That's what it is.
Yeah, Mirage is the new one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see more of that.
Yeah, for sure. It just feels like Ubisoft's just not doing anything good lately.
No. Yeah, no, they're definitely struggling. I doubt we'll ever see the Prince of Persia and Sands of Time remake at this point. That game's just been to the ringer, dude.
Who knows?
I love that original game, but at this point, probably just let it go, it sounds like. But yeah, man, it's been fascinating to watch these remakes come out. I think Blue Point is the master of remaking games from the ground up, where they're like a one-to-one remake for the most part.
Yeah, they're the masters of like recreating things one-to-one, yeah.
Yeah, and making them just absolutely gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Demon Souls blows my mind how beautiful that game is, not to mention just how much fun it was to play. I know hardcore Demon Souls fans of the original had some gripes about it, notably just kind of the aesthetic of it, but I never played the original, so I loved the Demon Souls remake. I adored Shadow of the Colossus. The original is also a masterpiece, but Blue Point just killed the remake, dude. It's so good.
Those are two games I really need to play.
But that's interesting because those are like one-to-one remakes, just look 10 times better than they used to. And then you compare Last of Us is a little different, then Dead Space is pretty significantly different. So it's just been really interesting to watch it all unfold. And I think Resident Evil 4 is the one I'm easily most excited about by far. Love the original, and the blend of new ideas with the original ideas just seems to be perfect so far. So
yeah. Would you consider what Blue Point does more in line with like a remake or a remaster? I mean, and then like something that Dead Space is doing, would that be a remake?
I think from a distance, you could call it a remaster because ultimately it really is just a visual upgrade and audible upgrade as well. But it is a remake. They really are. I mean, I think they could take the original source code and then build upon that. So they technically are rebuilding it.
Yeah.
But I think from a distance, you could just call them glorified remasters. But Demon Souls definitely feels a little different. There's things mechanically they enhanced. Not drastically, but enhanced just enough to make it a bit more accessible than the original. A bit more forgiving as well.
Honestly, I just think those two words are abstract.
Kind of unanimous at this point.
Yeah, they could use them interchangeably, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I think games that get the stamp of approval of a full-on remake are what Dead Space and RE4 are doing. Like, those are definitely remakes for sure.
Yeah.
I love, too, that a lot of these remakes are horror games, too. Because I love horror games, dude. And some of the best horror games of all time are being remade right now. And on top of that, Callisto Protocol looks sick. So the hands-on impressions that I've heard recently, plus all the new gameplay, just looks phenomenal. So, and the docu-series they're doing, I think it'll be several episodes where they break down their philosophy of horror and brutality in horror as the first episode, and all the other aspects they're going to cover leading up to launch was great. I love, too, that Glenn Schofield is very much kind of like a legend in the horror game development space at this point. And he's clearly hired people that also just share an affinity for brutal, horrific things. Yeah. And all the people commenting in this docuseries are all just fired up about how gnarly the gore is in this game. And it was also canceled in Japan because there's just something in it that's so hardcore Japan's not having it.
I saw that.
And I was unaware that a lot of games apparently get canceled in Japan, but that was a big headline earlier this week. So
did you know that WoW, sorry to interrupt you, but WoW doesn't have skeletons in the game in China?
Interesting.
Yeah, there's nothing death related.
Yeah, I haven't looked into this, but I don't know if The Last of Us Part 1 was canceled in Japan because that game is unbelievably violent, dude. It's insanely brutal, even compared to the original version of the game. It's crazy how violent it is. Yeah, so there's got to be something in Callisto Protocol that's so over the top of Japan's like, nope, not having it. I'm stoked for that, dude. Anyway, Jacob, actually, we didn't mention this yet. I'll just mention it briefly before we move on, but Henry Cavill is leaving the Witcher show. Did you hear about this?
I did.
That show's done, dude. I know they're replacing him with Liam Hemsworth, but there's no way people will be receptive to that. It was completely a different subject, but someone made a video about Disney remakes and kind of like recasting characters and everything. And they made a great point about why people have such backlash to remakes is because you're toying with attachments people have made to beloved characters. And a lot of people, myself included, have grown attached to Henry Cavill as Geralt. And if you replace him and it's meant to be the same character in the same show, just no one can truly receive that as like a good thing. So no matter what, this show is definitely done, I think. I'll be open-minded about it, dude. Like, I'm always going to give people the benefit of the doubt. I hope Liam Hemsworth does a great job, but I would have almost rather them either just made Ciri the main character or just do a brand new Witcher character in that world. because Henry Cavill is not only a great Geralt, but he's a hardcore fan of the series. So he knows everything about it. He's like an encyclopedia for the showrunners.
Yeah.
People have different theories as to why. He's somewhat back as Superman now after Black Adam, and he claims he's going to be around as Superman again. Cool. Some people say it's like, oh, he's doing that now. Other people have said he just was battling with the writers for 3 seasons. He's just done now. Mm-hmm. So a bunch of different theories. Ultimately, it doesn't matter, but he's out after season 3, which is kind of awkward because he's got to promote season 3. It comes out next year. So everyone's going to ask him, like, why are you leaving? Because he's got to promote a show he's not even a part of anymore.
Yeah.
That's the thing about the Witcher show too, dude, is that I've been entertained by season 1 and 2, but they haven't blown my mind. I think Henry Cavill's awesome in the show, but like the writing and storylines are kind of whatever to me.
It's just been fine.
Yeah, it is very much a fine show, and it's just not going to be even close to fine, I think, going forward, because you can't just replace a beloved actor like that in a show. I don't think it's going to work, so that's kind of a bummer for everyone else involved with the show.
Yeah, I think it would have been cool if Hemsworth would have like come in as another Witcher while Cavill was still Geralt. That would have been really cool.
Yeah, like don't have him be Geralt of Rivia, dude. Like how do you it's one thing if they replace Geralt with or Henry with like a really great actor who's like older and grizzled. Like there were a bunch of other people that people had fan casted as Geralt before Henry got the role that all seemed like they'd be cool Geralts. It's one thing to get one of those guys, but to get someone who's like not as tall as Henry Cavill, will never be as built as Henry Cavill. It's just not the same. It's like, it quite literally is a downgrade. I hate to say it. I don't think that's going to work.
It's time to bulk up.
That's the thing though, but you know this, genetically, some people can't get that big. Like Henry Cavill's built like a tank. I don't think Chris Hemsworth is built like that. Yeah. I don't think his younger brother is built like that. He has more like a skinnier guy, but he can try, but I don't think it's going to work out, dude.
I'll keep an open mind.
That was rough news, but isn't the end of the world for me, but sucks for some of the people involved with that show. Speaking of people leaving, the Rocksteady co-founders are leaving the studio. I'm not going to do a deep dive on this, but they've been around since the beginning, obviously, but we're around for the entirety of the Arkham trilogy. They've been overseeing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. They claim it's in very good hands, and the studio will thrive going forward, and they're moving on to different gaming endeavors together. So we'll see if they form a new studio, whatever they're going to do. I trust that it'll be cool because they led some phenomenal teams over the last decade. I heard that outside my window. Can you hear that on your end?
I have headphones on. I didn't hear it.
Okay.
I was so loud.
It's funny now as we were talking about, we'll hear a lot of the same gunshots and street races now. Not to get us too off topic, Preston was talking to me about Gotham Knights and how it's not a great game, and it's kind of crazy too because Arkham Origins was a very underrated game, not nearly up to par with the actual Arkham trilogy from Rocksteady, but it had its merits. It was pretty solid in a lot of ways. And Gotham Knights is just a huge step back in many ways. And I don't want to do a deep dive. That could be a whole different subject. And there's kind of obvious reasons as to why it's not a great game. But that being said, we kind of got into a conversation about Suicide Squad, is that I hadn't seen the gameplay demo in a while. So I went back and watched it a few days ago. And the game, from a production value standpoint, looks very impressive. Like all the animation, incredible. What snippets of gameplay we get look really cool. But I've just never been into the, and I don't want to label it as this because we really don't know what it's going to be like ultimately, but it almost looks like from a distance a hero shooter where you pick your character, you probably upgrade their abilities and play co-op or single player with your chosen character through all these enemies in different parts of the city and fight the Justice League. Maybe the Justice League characters are bosses you fight in the game, but as good as it looks, I'm sure it will be a great game because Rocksteady's a great studio. That game still has not captured my interest whatsoever. And like I said, replaying a little bit of Arkham Knight, I'm just reminded, like, we need another great Batman game. I don't know if everyone feels that way, but it's been a while since we've had a great single-player Batman game. And I'm even open to, like, a new version of the character and a new everything, but Gotham Knights ain't it. And I'll probably play Suicide Squad, but I'm not that interested in it, to be honest.
How often do you think we need a new Batman game?
Dude, once every 5 to 8 years. I don't need one every 2 years, dude. I'm talking, like, pour years of development into crafting great stories with great gameplay. And that's the good thing, is that you can really branch off of everything great that Rocksteady did with the Arkham trilogy and go from there. But I'm not talking like I need a Batman game biannually. Like every 5 to 8 years I'd be happy with it. And we're coming up on, 2015 was Arkham Knight, so we're coming up on 7 years.
Oh, wow.
So,
well, what about like Green Lantern, Garrett? Why can't we get a game for him? Why has it got to be Batman?
Because, dude, Batman's by far and wide the coolest out of all of them.
Okay, well, what about like...
I'd be open to a Superman game. Everyone's been waiting for a good Superman game.
No, hear me out. Mr. Freeze.
A Mr. Freeze game? I want to pass on that, bro. Mr. Freeze is an Arkham Knight, or Gotham Knights, and I've heard it's kind of a cool mission. So there's your Mr.
Right.
Freeze. I love Mr. Freeze as a character. I don't need a Mr. Freeze game, though.
Mr. Freeze game.
Yeah, no thanks.
How ridiculous would that be?
So some other day, maybe I'll do a video in the next few weeks after I've replayed the rest of Arkham Knight and do what I would love to see in a new Batman game.
That'd be cool.
That'll be a video I'll probably work on.
You should do that.
We won't waste our time here, but I'll give it some real critical thought and do something about that. I'm going to skip the Nibel leaving Twitter one. That's kind of whatever to me. I never really followed him too much. I was aware of everything he did in the industry, but
yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, he's leaving Twitter, and a lot of people were upset about that because he really was a great source of news and information, sometimes leaks. And he has his reasons, which I think are totally valid, which is a bummer. But he's leaving. It'll be interesting to see how that affects the industry going forward. So the other big news item was Marvel and EA have signed a deal to have 3 single-player focused games developed through EA. Obviously, we talked about the Motive one a week or two, or a couple episodes ago, about Motive developing an Iron Man game. A lot of potential there, probably using Anthem tech. And excited to see what they do. And I think the real answer to what Motive can do will be the response to Dead Space. Dead Space looks like they've done everything right, but we won't know for sure until we play it. Now, they did the Battlefront 2 campaign, which was kind of whatever. They did Squadrons, which was received well. I only played a couple of missions from that, but I could tell it was developed very well. But Dead Space will be the real, like, here's who EA Motive really is. So that will give us an impression of what we can expect in Iron Man, I think. But they didn't give too many other details on what characters will be developed and what studios within EA will be working on them. But I'd like to think BioWare might do one of them after Mass Effect, or I know they're doing Dragon Age still, and apparently a new Mass Effect in development as well. Maybe BioWare will do it. Playground Games is working on Fable, so I don't know who else within EA is going to, like, was one of the FIFA developers going to work on a Marvel game?
New studio, maybe?
EA and Marvel, man, signing deals. So I think that's fine because, Sony's tied up with Insomniac doing Spider-Man and Wolverine.
I forgot about Wolverine.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these EA deals work out. But I think that's good for EA because, they've been kind of all over the place for the last decade with varying responses to the games they've released. But nothing but potential with these. So not much else we can say, but it'll be cool to see what characters are chosen for these other studios and how they turn out.
You think we get a Thor game?
A lot of potential with Thor, but it's kind of late to the party because God of War is basically Thor.
Yeah, it's a good point.
in the new games.
That's a good point.
He plays like how I'd imagine Thor would play minus the flying.
Yeah.
Plus, you get Thor in the Avengers game, dude. You don't need a Thor
you're right.
game.
My bad.
Jacob, that brings us to Ask IOG. Ask IOG is the part of the show where we answer your questions submitted through any of our social media at ItsObviousGaming, the Ask IOG section of our Discord channel, or email to us at itsobviousgaming@gmail.com, and always include the hashtag AskIOG if you want your question read live on the show. First one comes from Jacob.
What?
Jacob says, in your guys' opinion, what does Ragnarok have to do to top Elden Ring as front runner for Game of the Year this year? After you, Jacob.
Well, if it's anywhere near as good as the first one, then I think it could very well win Game of the Year. But that's a lot to live up to. What does it have to do in particular? Honestly, it just needs to be a worthy sequel to God of War. Was it 2018 or 2019? When did it come out?
2018.
2018. I mean, I'm a big fan of the original one. So even if it just did the same things and just continued the story, I would be, assuming that the story is good and it ends up in a place that I approve of. Like if they don't just totally botch the story.
I disapprove of this.
Then even I would just praise the game. But I really don't know what it needs to do, honestly. Like it needs to do enough things gameplay wise to sort of mix it up a little bit. Like you need to add, like perhaps they'll add a new weapon to his arsenal after they have, 2 in the original one?
Yeah, the Leviathan Axe, Blade of Chaos, and you have the shield.
Oh yeah, that's right, the
stuff
shield
as well.
So maybe they'll bring back like one of the weapons from probably not from the old God of War games, but I'm sure they'll do something like that. And Atreus will probably be more involved this time around, I imagine. But really for me, it's all like the main draw is just the gameplay and the narrative. And I'm sure they'll introduce new characters that are going to be interesting. It's really just a combination of all those things clicking for it to beat a game like Elden Ring. Because Elden Ring definitely has some flaws, in my opinion. So I don't think by any means it's just going to run away with the game of the year.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting game of the year conversation. I'm kind of the same camp with you. I think 2018's God of War is unequivocally a masterpiece. I know we've said that a lot over the years. The interesting thing for me with God of War is that I've never once been compelled to replay it. Even with the frame rate upgrades, even on PC, I still have not been compelled to replay it. And I don't know why that is, because I loved every minute I spent with it. In fact, I have it logged on the internet because I had to do a full walkthrough for COD Connected on their YouTube channel. But that game was so well designed. The story was incredible. That's the challenge going into the sequel that I imagine they face is like, really, where can we go from here? Because it'd be one thing if it was just kind of good. And they're like, oh, we can only go up from here. But how do you go even further beyond? How do you go plus ultra with God of War 2018? Because the first one is so good that I don't know where they could have gone from there. And the good news is people that have been able to release their initial impressions have mostly been positive. I haven't heard anything negative. I think the only slightly negative thing I heard was from Gene Park on Twitter, said that it's just more God of War and it's pretty good. But most people said, oh, I think Skill Up had something interesting to say where he said, when I first started playing it, yes, it's very familiar, but it's so well designed that kind of just put it out of my mind that it's even a sequel. It's just a very well developed game.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have commented on like the really cool, brutal finishers you can do on enemies now. I think they've done a lot more emphasis on shield combat. I know Atreus is apparently, like you said, more involved. So the big things for me in the story, of course, is a big part of what made God of War 2018 so special. Not to mention the presentation, the design of the different realms you'd go to, but the combat trees and the combinations and the armor system were like really, really fun. So whatever they can do to really enhance that, again, I have no idea. Because I always say, like, I'm not a game designer, so I would be stressed out of my mind to come up with those ideas. But those are big things for me, to take what really worked in the first one, of course, enhance that, but also introduce a few new ideas. That's always what makes sequels great, is like it has what you loved about the first one in there, but a little more interesting, but then they throw in some new ideas to like mix things up. And I think the big one for me as well is a brand new weapon system. I don't know what it'll be, but I'm confident we're going to get a new weapon for sure. I always bring stuff back to Doom Eternal because I think Doom Eternal is also a masterpiece of game design. But think about all the different weapons and how they all work like an organism against all the enemies. And you can just seamlessly switch between them to deal with whatever enemy you're facing. They all kind of like complement each other, and then some enemies are affected by others in certain ways, and it's really, really brilliant. Can they do that with God of War? And it's a taste of that in 2018, where you have the Blades of Chaos that affect some enemies, and the Leviathan Axe is better for others. Throw in a third weapon into that sandbox, if not more, but at least one more to really mix it up even more and switch between them unanimously. I could imagine a dude, Blades of Chaos on one guy, Leviathan Axe on another. You got some other weapon you're using, and then not to mention Atreus doing his thing around you. Like, that's just sick.
Dude, what if we take Thor's hammer?
Maybe that's the thing, is that Leviathan Axe basically is Thor's hammer.
But it's not lightning.
Maybe you harness the energy from Mjolnir or something into Leviathan
you put
Axe.
it in something else, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
That's
a lot of potential, though.
Certainly it'll be lightning, though. That's the element he's missing.
Totally. That could be cool. He's got kind of like the fire with the Blades of Chaos, got ice with Leviathan. Lightning could be pretty sick. You make a good point, Jacob. Like I said, I'm hoping I eat my words that I said months ago. Like, it has potential to disappoint. The potential's still out there. The review embargo goes up on Thursday, November 3rd, so we're going to know very soon what people think.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that it's coming out very soon. What is it, 2 weeks away?
Yeah, I think it's the 9th, right? Let me double check. November 9th, yeah. So right around the corner. It sucks, though. I'm going out of town on November 9th. I'll be gone for 5 days.
Oh, man.
So hopefully the whole game isn't spoiled for me. No, I'll be working the whole time.
You're going to.
So I will not get to touch it for 5 days. Apparently spoilers are already out there, which is a shame because some retailers released it early.
I heard that.
And then 5 days out on the market, I will not have touched it. So I'm going to have to go into like an echo chamber when I get back from my trip and just hunker down and play through it. Yeah. So I will be a bit behind, but I'm very excited to play it for myself. It'll be good timing too, because I'll have played a ton of competitive shooters leading up to God of War. So I'll definitely be in the mood to jump into a single player focused action game. To beat Elden Ring, it's just got to really bring in some new ideas with a heavy hitting story, because Elden Ring really was sort of a reawakening for what an open world game can be, kind of what Breath of the Wild did. And you really can have some really interesting and diverse builds in Elden Ring. The RPG elements of Elden Ring are very good. That'll be a good conversation at the end of the year. But Jacob, thanks for writing in, man. Andrew Millian writes in and says, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name. He says, hello, gentlemen. When you guys play a shooting game with real-world guns or stand-ins for real-world weapons, what is your favorite or first gun you hope is in the game to use? A simple M4, a certain SMG, or sniper? Personally, I always search shooting games immediately for a Chris Vector SMG. It has an extreme rate of fire and they look unique on screen. And bonus question, we'll get to that in a sec. Guns you like to play with initially, Jacob?
Yeah, the Vector was the first thing that I thought of. I love Vectors and CODs. I always try to get a Vector. But other than that, like I don't know guns that well. Like I don't really. It's not like, oh, I love using PDWs. Like, no, I don't really. Like, I'll find a gun that feels good to use in the game, and if it looks decent enough, I'll use it. I don't really play favorites like that.
Yeah, I whatever just ultimately feels the best and is most consistent for me, I enjoy. But I'm mostly an assault rifle guy. But like I said, the weapon grind in Modern Warfare 2 is interesting, and I've been bouncing around all over the place. And I found a bunch of guns I would realistically use in any scenario. So mostly an assault rifle guy, though.
I will say I do. So I do like using SMGs in shooter games. Like, I don't remember exactly what it was called, but there's been like multiple MP somethings in Call of Duty games, like MP7s, maybe MP9s,
MP5,
yeah, MP5. But I like that variation of SMG. But forgive me, I don't know much about guns.
It's funny how none of the real world weapon names are in Call of Duty anymore, but people still call them by their OG names because they're all like really complicated names I can never remember now. One thing about Modern Warfare 2 I wanted to mention, I forgot about, this is so funny, is that they're in like multiple legal issues with all kinds of places right now because they've recreated maps and sequences in their game that are complete recreations of real world places. Notably, the museum map from the beta is almost a one-to-one remake of the real museum. The hotel map is also a one-to-one recreation. The racetrack has all kind of legal issues. Apparently, pro players literally aren't allowed to play on it for some weird reason. That's been a problem. And then also the Amsterdam sequence in the game is so similar to the real world location. A ton of people have been making comparison videos that Amsterdam is also apparently going to do something about it. And it just fascinates me that one of the biggest franchises on the face of the planet will not even remotely seemingly get permission to remake these places, and now they're facing the repercussions. Like, I've always loved the mindset of like act now and deal with and ask for an apology later or whatever, but sometimes you just obviously can't do that. It's one thing if it's just one map they're having to struggle with, but it's like 5 things in the game they're having to deal with legal trouble with after the game's released. I'm like, what are you doing? So it's just hilarious to me that that's happened. And I know Alcatraz is the rebirth map in Warzone, and that's almost a 1-1 recreation. There's even a YouTuber who went to Alcatraz and toured it and compared all of the parts of the map that are the same.
Garrett, give Activision Blizzard a break. They're a multi-dollar company. Give them a break.
Multi-dollar
company.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay, but it's just interesting to me that they would even take that chance. So. Yeah. Just bring back classic silly maps, dude. If you're not going to make original maps just out of someone's mind, that's an original location, just don't even do it. I know every map is always inspired by something, but I just think it's funny they recreate these places and have to deal with the problems afterward.
There was one thing I wanted to say earlier about MW2, and for the most part, on most maps, I like it more than the first Modern Warfare remake. Or is it a remake or just a reimagining? Maybe more like a reimagining.
It's a reimagining. It has a lot of similar elements in there, but it's a new game.
Anyway, I like that there's less places that you have to check on the map. Like, it's more traditional in its map design for the most part. There are some maps that are very wide open, but like, say you're on just like one of the smaller maps, there's only like maybe 3 or 4 places you have to look before you can feel comfortable moving on, as opposed to like the first Modern Warfare remake that like you would have to check like 10 different places where an enemy could be because like the maps are just so wide open and big. So I feel like in this game I felt a little more at ease in that sense, I guess. I like the map design. It's a little more, but yeah.
I hear you. Bonus question from Andrew. He says, what about in games from an older time period? Are you a sword and shield fighter, an archer, or do you look for something more unique like a scythe? Is it scythe or scythe? I think it's scythe.
Scythe.
Scythe or katana? I've been using my mantis blades in Cyberpunk. Those are pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
But it's not a period piece. I always liked mixing up sword and shield in Skyrim. Love being an archer in Skyrim. Katanas are always fun. I love the katanas in Ghost of Tsushima. So, depends on the game, I guess.
I like anything that's dual wield. I like sword and shield. I had a scythe in Final Fantasy 14 with the Reaper class. That was pretty cool.
Sick.
But it's not really an old time period game. It's an anime game. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of katanas, personally. Not a big samurai, dude. Archers are cool, though.
I just had a ton of fun in Skyrim, notably with archery. But Andrew, thanks for writing in, man. That was a fun one. Nikolai writes in and says, how involved are you guys with the Yakuza series? A ton of new games have been announced, and they all look amazing. As a fan of the only negative about the series is that there are so many games it's hard to keep up. Yakuza 0, Kiwami 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Like a Dragon, Judgment, Lost Judgment, and more, plus new announcements. It's a mouthful. I've heard mostly great things about the Yakuza series, but I've never jumped in because there are so many of them. I've heard some people say, like, start with this one, start with that one, but I have not committed to any of them, so I might try one day. I'm not, like, itching to try one, but one of the things that have kind of kept me at bay have been just the abundance of them, like you said.
Yeah.
But I've heard nothing but good things from fans.
Honestly, it's always been a series that think that I would really like, but that's the very reason why I don't want to start it, because I don't want to like play one of them and then really like it and be like, hey, now I got to play like 8 games because I really like this series. I don't want that on my plate. I already have enough on my plate right now. I'm not gonna say I'll never play a Yakuza game, but I just don't want to right now, if that makes sense. They do seem hilarious though, in a lot of ways. And they seem like really quality games, at least some of them that I've seen. Like 0, for example. I watched a lot of gameplay for that one when it was new.
Yeah, no, I might try one day, but like I said, they're not on my backlist or anything, but I've heard they're great, so maybe one of these days, but there's plenty to play between now and everything that's coming, so we'll see. But thanks for writing in, Nikolai. Sam Harris writes in and says, Overlords! Praise be to Master Chief, Mario, and Sonic. How are you, fellas? It's been a while. I'm enjoying the YouTube content and I hope it continues. My question is not gaming related, but I believe it will be profound. What are y'all's hot takes pertaining to food? Mine is that Olive Garden's breadsticks are trash. Yeah, I know, but they are basic, too chewy, and way too salty. I think it's a salty take, honestly, Sam. It says, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, I'm looking forward to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Can't wait to catch those Gen 9 Mons. Have a blessed week, and may y'all's farts be silent, but deadly. Hot takes on food.
Good. I've noticed that my gas doesn't smell bad anymore.
But it's your own brand. Can you be sure of that?
No.
I haven't smelled one of your farts in years, so I wouldn't know.
Like, when I used to live in that
apartment... Did you change your diet?
I used to eat a lot of fast food back then. That was probably it.
That'll do it, for sure.
I probably just had a terrible diet. Now my diet's kind of cleaned up. That's probably the reason. Every once in a while I have some really bad ones, but it's usually after I eat, like, Domino's or something really rancid.
That's a bold statement. That's a hot take in and of itself to claim your farts don't smell anymore.
I smell good.
You're literally saying your shit don't stink right now.
Even the shit that comes out of me smells good. I smell so good.
Man, you're something else, Jacob.
Thank you.
I'm willing to take your word for it for now, but I don't know that for a fact. So how about next time you take a dump, we'll just dunk my noggin in the bowl and see what's going on.
You live less than a mile away. Next time I need a dump, I'll just walk down there.
A little investigative journalism on my end. That could be a formal review on the YouTube channel of Jacob's shit. Does it stink or does it not? That's a hot take, Jacob. For food, I'm not sure. I mean, I like Olive Garden's breadsticks. I've never been crazy about them, but I don't think they're trash. I do recognize every point you make is not wrong. They are basic. They are fairly chewy and they can be too salty, but I like that about them.
They're still
it doesn't bother me.
You're wrong.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're trash, but They're certainly not insanely good or anything.
Sam, have you ever dipped the breadstick in the chicken gnocchi soup? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do, man.
You would not say that.
It's a great combo. That and a little marinara as well.
Oh, baby.
I kind of want to go to Olive Garden right now. It's Halloween night. That's probably the scariest thing I've heard all night, honestly, you saying they're trash. That is a hot take for sure. I don't know if I have one, dude.
Hot take number 1. Cereal sucks. Every single one. And it's stupid.
I rebuke that with all that I am.
Cereal is so dumb.
I love cereal.
It's bad.
Don't get me wrong, cereal is candy. It's straight up candy, but I do love it.
It doesn't need to
It's
exist.
a good thing to snack on while I'm watching videos is what I like to. I like to watch videos when I'm eating in general, but cereal watching videos is a good time.
You could eat anything else.
I do eat anything else, like all the time. But one of my favorite late night snacks is a bowl of cereal. Like a bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch at like 11 p.m. Love it. It's not an every night thing for me, but maybe once a week I'll do that.
Okay.
That is a hot take, Jacob. I wouldn't say cereal's trash.
It's not wrong, though.
Dude, I disagree. I guarantee you most people would disagree with you.
Good.
Certainly not all, but I mean, to each their own, man, but I strongly disagree.
It's like, who wants a soup that's cold? You know what I mean?
It's not cold soup.
It is.
It's sugary, delicious, crunchy
soup.
That's the thing, though. See, here's where we're different, Jacob. I don't drown my cereal in milk. I coat my cereal in milk. I'll get just enough to where, like, for example, Cinnamon Toast Crunch would be like cinnamon milk at the end. I can slurp down the rest. But for the most part, I don't like my cereal to get soggy, so I lightly coat it with milk, just like a quick little drizzle.
You don't like your soup to get soggy.
Well, I don't like my cereal to be soup. I've seen people do that drives me crazy. Again, do your thing. I'm not telling you you're wrong. People pour a bowl of cereal and drown it in like a bowl of milk where the milk overwhelms the cereal. You don't need that much milk. The milk is meant to enhance the taste of the cereal.
What if you like milk?
That's fine. Like you're not wrong for doing that. It's just I have a
you're
totally
making it seem like they're
mindset
wrong,
when it comes to
Garrett.
cereal.
You're being very
I wouldn't do it
judgmental.
that way. It would be wrong for me to do that because I don't like it that way.
Okay.
I don't think anyone needs that much milk, but if you want to do that, by all means.
What kind of milk do you drink?
Right now it's the Simply almond milk, but I prefer the Simply oat milk. I just can never find it at the Publix I go to. I'm also down for like 2%. I just don't get it as often as I used to. So I like Simply though, because it really is like all their other drinks where it really is just the most basic ingredients. It's not under that other crap that's thrown into a lot of other almond milks and oat milks. So very simple. But I hate to be a disappointment, Jacob, but I can't think of a single hot take right now.
That's lame.
I mean, I've disagreed with yours, so that's one thing we got going for us. But Sam, I'm stoked for everything you got going on right now. And I don't totally agree with your hot take on Olive Garden breadsticks, but respect, man, to each their own.
True.
Spooky Tomato writes in and says, "Hello, boys. If you could have any guest star in the podcast, which would your picks be for?" We'll start with this one, Jacob. Industry-related guest, can be a journalist, dev, etc. I wrote down mine. Who do you got? Just off the top of your head.
I think it'd be cool to talk to, I have no idea. I don't really want to talk to anybody.
I've got a few that I think could be fun. Notably Jake Baldino, because I've been a fan of his for a long time, and he and I have very similar tastes in games and very similar mindsets when it comes to how we speak about them. And it isn't intentional. That's why I've always liked Jake Baldino, because I think very similar to how he does about a lot of things. And I think it would just be a good vibe. I think we'd all have a good time talking if we had Jake on at some point. Same with Colin Moriarty, because he is what directly inspired this podcast. He and Podcast Beyond, and then later with Kind of Funny. Now, obviously, he's doing Sacred Symbols, but just Colin in general over the years has been was initially a big inspiration for us. And I continue to love all the work he does, especially now with Sacred Symbols. So I think that'd be a huge honor. That'd be cool. And then two industry-related people, Mick Gordon, because I think Mick Gordon is a modern Beethoven. And the reason I say that is because everyone loves his Doom music. When you listen to them, they really are like designed by a true composer. I mean, yes, it's metal, but it's composed like an orchestra. And then you compare the new guy who they brought in, who's just a shredder on guitar, which in his own right is cool. Like the guy they brought in for the DLC are like fine songs, but Mick Gordon is just on a whole nother level. It just really makes him stand above other composers that compose music like that. There are a lot of great composers that do movies and video games, but Mick Gordon, I think, is just very unique. He's also just a cool dude. In all the interviews I've ever watched of him, he's just extremely passionate and knowledgeable and is always down to talk about his craft. So I think it'd be a really fascinating thing just to listen to him talk about his philosophy when it comes to composing music for games. And then also Hugo Martin, because I think Hugo Martin has just an incredible personality. He's the game director of Doom Eternal. And anytime he's on camera talking about his games, it's just a delight. And I love hearing him talk about Doom and just game design in general. So I think he'd be a lot of fun to listen to as well. Anyone come to mind while I mention those guys?
There are a few people I'd like to meet. Like, I used to be a big fan of Jeff Kaplan back in the day. I don't know what he's doing now or where he's at, but he always seemed like a guy I'd really want to talk to. Like, he just seems like a guy that's really passionate about, or he used to be really passionate about his job, and it was just always a joy to see on camera or speak. I always feel like he would have a good conversation with you.
Do you know what he's doing now?
I don't think I don't know what he's doing.
He
might be
took his
retired.
millions from directing Overwatch. He's like, all right, I'm out. I've had enough of this industry.
Yeah, dude. Like, I have no idea. Another developer, Corey Barlog, I think would be someone I would want to meet. I think he has a really good sense of how to make a good game.
Clearly.
Yeah. And I always like hearing him in interviews and stuff. He seems like a cool guy. In terms of like more content based, like like a YouTuber or a streamer, I'd always want to meet someone like there's this guy named Bellular Garrett. He has a couple channels on YouTube, but they're all gaming related, and one's like focused on WoW. Another one's focused on more like just general gaming news. Him and his crew are based out of like, I don't think it's Wales. It might be somewhere close to, it's somewhere in the UK. I can't quite remember, but they're a bunch of English guys, and they basically just have a general gaming YouTube channel where they talk about games, and they always have really good dialogue back and forth. But the guy, Michael, he's always a guy that I like to hear his opinions on things.
A couple honorable mentions for me are, I just thought of his name. Why am I forgetting? Todd Howard from Bethesda. I know a lot of people over the years have kind of grown apprehensive toward him because they claim he's all talk. But at the end of the day, I think he's just so much fun to listen to, especially when he gets fired up about the games he's developing. So I'd love to hear him just talk about anything throughout his history of developing games and just stories from his career. I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And another honorable mention for me is Joseph Staten from 343. He's a veteran Halo developer. Super cool guy. I actually interviewed him once when he was marketing Crackdown 3 for COD Connected. And it was so funny because when I interviewed him, I recognized him. I just didn't know where I recognized him from. And he's a huge name in the industry, notably with Halo. And he's leading 343 now. But when I interviewed him, I was just totally ignorant to who he was. And it blew my mind when I later found out his history with Halo. And he's also just a really fun guy to listen to when he talks about games. Even to this day, even though they're 343 struggling right now, I love hearing him talk about games. So he'd be another fun one. There's probably a dozen other people I could mention, but those are the big ones for me. What about a celebrity guest? Actor, musician, or athlete?
Well, I'd love to meet the guys in Linkin Park.
Any of them gamers?
No, not really. I think Mike Shinoda dabbles every once in a while, but he's not a gamer. I'd like to meet Leonardo DiCaprio. I'd like to meet...
Have him on the podcast?
Yeah, dude, just get him on. Just have a good old time.
Talk about climate change and finally winning an Oscar.
Yeah. Congrats, man. It was a long time coming. I don't know, man. You go. I'll come back to me.
See, I would specifically want people on the podcast who are into games. The main one for me is Henry Cavill. Because he plays games. He's mostly into, like, obviously The Witcher, but he's also into, I don't think it's League of Legends. What's that? It's War. It's on the tip of my tongue. Warhammer. He's really into Warhammer.
He's really into WoW.
Yeah, and he builds PCs. I think it'd be awesome to have on the podcast, dude. That'd be so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Cavill's one, and notably a lot of band guys I've met over the years are way into games. Notably, a lot of the guys in Era are gamers. JT and Sean, in particular, were playing games in between every shoot we had with Era.
Oh, yeah?
The whole weekend. JT played a lot of Apex that weekend, and Sean was playing League of Legends, I think.
That's cool.
So they're big gamers. They'd be fun to have on.
I completely forgot this question was supposed to be, who do we want on the podcast?
Yeah. And lastly would be Jonathan Vigil from the Ghost Inside. He's the vocalist. I'd mentioned years ago when I sat next to him, we were teammates in the Black Ops 4 reveal event, and I got to sit and talk with him for like half an hour, which is still one of the craziest stories of my life so far. Just the timing of it and how it worked out, and just the conversation we had was wild. I know he plays games. I know a lot of the guys in those bands play games, but given my history with talking to him before, it'd be cool to have him on as well. So that's all I really got for celebrities. The last one was Big Colt. And Big Colt, seriously, I think we should absolutely have you on if that's something you would be up for.
Dude, I don't know if we want him on the podcast.
I think it'd be a great time.
He's not that.
He's never been on before.
He's not that great though. He's kind of terrible. You know what I mean? Are
you comparing him to Olive Garden breadsticks?
Yeah, yeah. That kind of guy? That's a good comparison, actually.
He's too salty and chewy and.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think Big Colt would be an incredible guest.
Just what Sam says here. It says, "Yeah, I know they are basic, too chewy, and way too salty." That kind of defines Big Colt.
But has Big Colt been dipped in the chicken gnocchi soup?
I don't know.
What if we give him a little dunk in the soup there and then get him on the podcast?
Ask him that.
I think we should absolutely have Big Colt on.
Yeah, Big Colt's cool. We could maybe get him on.
We'll hit him up. Spooky Tomato, thank you so much for writing in. That was a good one. Big finale, Dog Satan. I'm assuming that's your Halloween tag. What's something you consider to be a huge turning point in your life this far? Recently, I just got my permanent staff position at my job after a rocky trial period, and it's really boosted up my confidence and improved my self-image. It's my first permanent employment, so I feel very happy about having the job security. Conversely, what's a strategy you'll employ when the opposite happens and life slaps you in the face with a large phallic object? How do you handle it when shit goes tits up?
Someone say tits?
Yeah. After you, pal, I got my answer ready.
Dude, he always hits us with these kind of questions. Like, they're always these, like, life questions. These are my least favorite kind of questions.
I love these, dude, because it mixes up, like, the goofier stuff.
Well, probably the most recent turning point in my life was moving into this place. Certainly. It's a big step for me. Been around my parents for a long time, and I'm kind of finally out doing my own thing. It's kind of scary and also refreshing at the same time.
And you get to see me.
And I get to see Garrett way too much now.
So. You get to get late night cookout milkshakes.
That's a big plus, I'm not going to lie. I want one right now, honestly.
It's not too late, man. They're open 24 hours.
Oh, I'm not going. I got to go to bed. Like now.
What about, that's any other notable turning points in your life that are
that's the big one
worth
that
mentioning?
Sticks out right now.
Okay. What about when life goes tits up? When nothing goes according to plan, how do you deal with it?
You just got to keep trying. Just got to keep grinding away till you figure it out. You just got to sit down and try to work it out as best you can. There's really no better way to go about it. I mean, if you're just being overwhelmed by something, maybe taking a small break, putting your mind elsewhere for a second can help you think more clearly when you revisit the problem. That's something I always do.
Yeah, I understand that. It's difficult. We have a habit of recording these episodes late into the night, and we get to a point where we really do have to stop, unfortunately. So I could go much, much deeper than this, but I'll kind of give you like the basic overview of how I feel about this. To branch off of what you had said, sometimes situations in life reoccur that you've experienced before, and you can navigate them differently based on what you've learned before. Hopefully people don't get caught in a loop where they are quite literally insane and keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. I've been guilty of that a couple times in my life, but I've thankfully grown out of a lot of bad decisions I used to make. But a major turning point for me was work-related in 2020 when I started working with the guys I'm working with now, which has been nothing but an incredible experience that I'm just endlessly grateful for. Continue to grow with these guys and work on projects I'm passionate about. And it's always just a fun time. And we do great work together, which is a very rare thing to do consistently in the film world. And that's entirely by the grace of God. It's a long story. One day maybe I'll share like how that all played out. But really was a major turning point for me in terms of just a career and doing the work that I love to do. And even beyond just the work aspect, just the relationships that have occurred because of that. And the experiences are lifelong. I'll have them forever, which wouldn't have happened otherwise. So I'm very grateful for that. Not to mention, I don't want to go too heavy, but dark periods I've had in my life that will really move me and sometimes bring me to tears, honestly, is that, and I'm not just talking about like the benefits of a good work situation, just all the other experiences surrounding it as well, that I would have never experienced had I given up in my life before, you know? That's something that breaks my heart about people who take their own lives. Multiple layers to that as well, but there are aspects of life that do get better if you stick it out. I know it's different for everyone, but that always breaks my heart to hear about suicide, is that there's so much of life that could have been experienced. And I think about just my own life to compare it to things that the Lord brought into my life that I otherwise wouldn't have experienced had I just given up and taken matters into my own hands. That being said, how I navigate life when, like you said, shit goes tits up is my faith in Christ has never failed me. God has never failed me. And I can attest to that because I've lived nearly 30 years of my life now, and men and women much older than me can attest to it even more than I can. But what little time I've spent on planet Earth, the Lord has always provided for me when everything goes wrong, whether it's my fault or completely out of my control. My faith has certainly been tested, but it's only been strengthened by all the situations and life experiences He brought me through, especially at my darkest periods of life. I can only really just give praise and glory to Him, because without Him, I don't know what I would have done. Could have navigated it my own way, but it's never worked out for me when I've done it that way, when I've taken matters into my own hands. So, and I'm not saying I'm inactive in that. Faith really is an action. It's a choice. And I have worked alongside the Lord to navigate difficult situations in life. But ultimately, it's by His doing that I'm where I'm at today. Not everything's perfect. I don't have perfect days. Not every day's sunshine and daisies, but the one constant in my life has been Jesus Christ, and my life would not be remotely the same without Him. So that's the constant for me that's helped me navigate difficult situations. So again, I could go way deeper, but that's the overview of my thoughts on that topic.
Nice, man.
Anything else from you, Jacob? This has been a long episode, but a good episode.
I'm all talked out.
You're tapped out?
Yeah.
Well, Jake, it was an honor and pleasure. I know you got to go to bed.
I do.
But
I'm sleepy.
I'm really glad we got to do this, man. I'm stoked you're living in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited about all the games we have coming, the ones we currently have to play. So it's a good season to be a gamer.
For
I know
sure.
we've had our ebbs and flows over the years, but right now it's exciting. So thank you to everyone who tuned in. I hope you enjoyed just the full episode and any other excerpts that have wound up on YouTube if you're listening there. Grateful to have you. Count on more YouTube content in the coming weeks and months when we can do it. At least 1 or 2 videos a week. So we're excited, man. It's Obvious Gaming is still alive and well. We love this content. We're proud of it, passionate about it. Lord willing, Preston will be back with us in the near future for something. And we're just endlessly grateful for your support through all of this. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you guys next time.
Later.